Welcome to the January 1st council meeting, and as you can tell, I have a cold. So I apologize for sounding like a frog, and I'll try to speak slowly and carefully. Councilman Hargrove is going to lead us in the flag salute this evening, so if you'd please stand.
All right, everyone, face the flag, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager Ballantyne, do we have any additions or revisions to the agenda?
I have no changes to the agenda, Mayor.
Oh, there you are, way down there. Okay, under public announcements, this is the time and the place to inform the public of all upcoming events and past occurrences of community-wide interest and concern. First, as we are in a different location for tonight's meeting, I wanted to provide a brief overview of the room's amenities. First, we have an assisted listening system available to all those requiring this service. Should you need to use one of the assistive listening system's receivers, please feel free to inform our city clerk, Angela Robles, who is located on your right-hand side of the stage. Also, restrooms are available in the lobby and both ends of the room. Lastly, to exit tonight's meeting, please exit through the east and west exits located behind myself and the council. The sliding doors to the lobbies where the restrooms are located are open. If you need assistance, please let city staff know. Chino City Hall office hours at the Preserve will resume on Thursday, February 6th. Office hours will start earlier that day, running from 4 to 8 p.m. City staff will be available to answer your questions and listen to your input. Staff from the Census Bureau will also be available to provide information about the census and census jobs. Speaking about the census, the 2020 census is right around the corner, with April 1st, 2020 as the official census day. The U.S. Census Bureau is recruiting to fill hundreds of thousands of temporary positions across the country to assist with the 2020 census count. This is your chance to play a part in history. Temporary census positions offer the perfect opportunity to earn extra income while at the same time helping your community. Did you know? The results of the 2020 census help inform decisions about how hundreds of billions of dollars are spent locally for schools, hospitals, roads, and more. So it's important that everyone is counted. Please visit https://2020census.gov/en/jobs.html to learn more details about the positions themselves, including what you'll need to apply and a timeline for the hiring process. The next quarterly Chino City Hall on the Move is scheduled for Saturday, March 14th from 9 to noon at the Chino High Stadium during a portion of the City of Chino Youth Track and Field Meet. As you know, the purpose of City Hall on the Move is to meet our residents where they are. So we hope to meet you at the meet to discuss your city-related issues of interest. Please plan to stop by between the track and field events. Next on the agenda is public comments. This is the time and the place for the general public to address the council about items that do not appear elsewhere. I have a written request to speak from Don Porter from Cross Point Church. Don's going to lead us in an invocation, so all those interested in joining us, please stand.
Thank you, Mayor. Would you pray with me? Our Father in heaven, we thank you for the city of Chino. We thank you for the mayor. We thank you for the council. We thank you for the entire staff of the city and all the ways that they serve us. We thank you, Lord, as well for the police department, the fire department, and all the ways that they assist us. We thank you for the businesses that reside in this city and the ways that they promote jobs and help people. Lord, we remember the words that you spoke when you were asked which is the greatest of all the commandments. And you said the first and greatest commandment is that we would love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second being like it, that we would love our neighbor as ourselves. Father, as we deliberate tonight, may we live out those commands. May we honor one another. May we respect one another. May we listen to one another. And in so doing, we are loving you and honoring one another. We thank you for this night. Give us wisdom. Give us clarity of thought. Give us purpose. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Don. Okay. I have a request to speak under public comments from Stubby Bar. Stubby?
Are we on?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to be able to tell because of the hearing assist. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. It's nice to be here in the paint department at Home Depot for a change.
This is not the paint department of Home Depot anymore, Stubby.
Sorry,
Gee.
I couldn't read the sign. So I wanted to talk to you tonight about the reason that we're here. The reason we're here stems from a planning commission meeting on November 18th at the Senior Citizen Center, one in which I was not able to participate because there was no assisted listening system available. I can give you the details, but California and federal law require assisted listening to be available at all times. It's a requirement. It is not a reasonable modification that someone has to request. And because of that, any meeting that's held without the full requirements of the ADA and the California accessibility requirements is a violation of the government code. Public meetings have to be fully accessible. The section of the government code you hopefully are all more familiar with than me is the Ralph M. Brown Act. So I just want to make sure that you are aware that I intended to participate in two of the items that were on the agenda that night and was denied that opportunity. That is the reason that we are here. This is definitely audio. I don't know if the sound guy's back there, but I'm getting squelch big time. Might be. Can you still hear me?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. That took care of it. Feedback. I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, I want you all to be aware, and you should already be aware, that that meeting was a violation of the Brown Act, and as such, it can and is subject to cure and correction per the law. The statute of limitations for that cure and correction period has not yet expired.
Thank you. As you know, we're working diligently to try to amend all of our weaknesses.
Mayor, I
It
know.
only takes money, Stubby.
Believe me, I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the only written request to speak I have. Oops. on non-agenda items. Is this not agenda?
That's non-agenda.
Okay,
This is one consent.
okay,
And those are additional speakers.
okay. Mr. Zeb Wellborn from the Chino Valley Chamber. Zeb?
Hello there.
Hi.
Sorry, I went over to the other place earlier. Been a busy day, so I told Mark I would come by and just give it.
Your social media guy.
I know. Sorry, it's been one of those days where I've been in the office all day and meetings all day. But I just want to give you all an update on our Chamber of Commerce and what we've been up to recently. You know, at the start of the year, we have kind of our goal planning session, and so we're setting our goals. We actually have a retreat planned for this Monday to go over our strategy and plan for the Chamber in the near future. Just kind of giving updates, calendar updates on some of the things that you have here today. It says tomorrow morning I'm going to be giving a presentation about how to get the most out of your Chamber membership. So those of you that are in business and you're looking to grow your business, this is a great thing to attend about how the Chamber can kind of come alongside you and how we can help promote businesses in our community. We have our annual business mixer tomorrow night, which is always a big event for our chamber. So we usually have between 200 and 300 business owners which come to the Chino Commercial Bank every year, and so we anticipate that we're going to have something similar to that this year. We have lots of new businesses are coming into the chamber as well. At the start of the year, you know that a lot of people are looking to start their years off strong. So we have a lot of businesses that are coming to the chamber at the start of this year. We have a grand opening and ribbon cutting on January 25th. We have another one on February 8th. So the one on the 25th is at the R&R Breakfast Spot, which is at Philadelphia Street. We have the 3-Point Play Zone, which is in Chino Hills on February 8th. We also have a presentation. We're going to be meeting at the Clark's Nutrition Center as well on February 5th for our business at breakfast. Those are kind of just the general updates, and I wanted to say that we're kicking the year off strong, and I want to thank you all for your support on everything, and that's all I have to share today.
Thank you, Zeb. Now I'm looking around the audience. We have a tradition that we have here, and that is we call up any students that are here fulfilling a school requirement to attend a governmental meeting. Are there any students here this evening? I don't think I see any. Okay, those are the only written requests to speak I have on non-agenda items. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. We have a request to pull item number 7. Is there a motion on the balance of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem made the motion. Councilman Hargrove, I think Councilman Hargrove beat you, made the second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the consent calendar passes unanimously. Item number 7, easement deed parcel map number 19689, Chino Kimball Industrial LLC. There's a request to speak from Mr. Stubby Barr.
Can you hear me?
Barely,
Can you hear me?
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to review this earlier. I just noticed it as I sat down. This is an application for an easement on a public street. You don't need easements for transportation. Sewers and other utilities are a form of transportation. I think Enterprise Way is a private street, not a public street. I think the resolution is worded wrong, and probably the staff report too.
Okay. Nick, would you like to look at the staff report and see if it needs to be corrected? Item number 7.
Certainly. I'd request if the council wanted to pull it, send it back to staff, and
Okay.
we'll be able to review it.
We'll do that. We'll send it back to staff. Thank you, Stubby. Okay, moving on to public hearings. Prior to a vote of the council, any member of the audience will have an opportunity to address the council on any items listed under public hearings. Council requests, but it's not required that you state your name and address prior to making any remark. There are quite a few people in the audience this evening, and I'm sure many of you have the same kind of comments to make. So I'm going to request that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, and please be respectful and not repeat something that someone else has already said. Okay, so I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Staff report, I'll request from our Director of Development Services, Nick Lagori. Nick?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The application before the council this evening is a request to adopt a mitigated negative declaration, amend the general plan, and initiate an annexation and pre-zone application with the Local Agency Formation Commission, or LAFCO, for a 12-acre parcel located at the northwest corner of Francis and Yorba Avenues. Approval of this application would allow for the development of 39 single-family, single-story homes with lot sizes generally between 8,000 and 12,000 square feet and an overall density of 3.25 units per acre. Here is an aerial map showing the location of the property and surrounding area. For some historical context, the applicant brought a similar project with 43 proposed homes before the Planning Commission and City Council in December of 2017. The Planning Commission recommended denial of the application by the council, and the council ultimately denied the application on a 2-2 vote. Subsequent to these actions, the developer made modifications to the proposal working with adjacent residents. Here's a graphic showing the project site and surrounding general plan land use designations. The site is currently designated as RD2 by the general plan, which allows for single-family homes at a density of 2 per acre. The proposed project would change the general plan land use designation to RD 4.5, which allows for single-family homes at a density of 4.5 per acre. Project site is primarily surrounded by land designated as RD2, with RD 4.5 designated land to the southeast. An environmental review was conducted for the project in accordance with the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. A mitigated negative declaration, or MND, has been prepared, as it was determined that any potential negative impacts from the project could be mitigated to a less than significant level by mitigation measures incorporated into the project through conditions of approval. Here is a proposed site plan for the development. At their November 18th meeting, the Planning Commission, on a 4-3 vote, approved a site approval, special conditional use permit, and tentative track map for the subdivision and development, and also recommend the City Council adopt the MND, approve the general plan amendment, and initiate the annexation and pre-zone. The track map and other entitlements would not be effective, however, until after the annexation is approved by LAFCO. At the Planning Commission hearing, there was a lot of public testimony which appeared to be evenly split. Proponents of the project generally argued that it would improve the area by adding new single-story homes, allow for extension of infrastructure, and remove negative conditions on the currently vacant property. Opponents of the project generally argued that by constructing conventional suburban development on the lot, conflicts could be created with adjacent animal keeping and agricultural land uses, as well as straining existing roadways and infrastructure. The city has received a lot of correspondence on the project. That's an understatement, both in support and opposition. This was provided to the council in the agenda packet. Additionally, late today, the city was given 5 additional support letters, 77 support cards, a handout from the applicant, and a letter of support from the Building Industry Association. Here is a picture of the elevations of proposed homes, showing the enhanced architecture and the single-story nature of the subdivision. The project, as proposed, meets all the city zoning requirements for residential development and incorporates a very high quality of design. Here are some perspective renderings of the proposed project. They're provided to illustrate how the development might look after construction. The applicant will have a detailed presentation for the council. As a requirement of the municipal code, the developer is required to provide a recreational amenity for the development. A park has been proposed, which includes a playground, picnic area, and open turf area. At the Planning Commission hearing, the Commission reaffirmed that the park would be a private park, owned, operated, and maintained by the Homeowners Association for the community. Because the park is private, the developer will be required to pay the city's park fees, which we utilize to build future city parks. As part of the annexation process, a plan for service and fiscal analysis is required to be prepared and submitted to LAFCO. Due to county policy, since the proposed project is not an island annexation, the city would be required to split its traditional share of property tax allocation of 10.8% with the county, and so we would be receiving only 5.4% in perpetuity. The fiscal analysis shows that based upon estimated property values, the ongoing fiscal impact to the city from the annexation and proposed development would be essentially cost neutral. However, one-time revenues would be generated in the form of development impact and building permit fees. Staff's recommendation to the council has been prepared consistent with the Planning Commission's recommendation to the council to adopt the MND, approve the general plan amendment to change the land use designation to RD 4.5, and initiate the annexation and pre-zone. This concludes the staff report, and we are available for any questions the council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Prior to presentation from the applicant and public speakers, do any members of the council have any questions before we get started? Mark, go ahead.
Let me find it. I got a lot of notes here.
Is your, I don't think your mic's on.
Let me see what I want to split out here, Nick. Maybe you can answer. So you said a lot of support letters. I mean, I was told somewhere like, 800 from each side, and I know that I looked at every one of those that came in, and there was a lot of triplicates, and it depended on if they were emails, and so I kind of narrowed it down. It seemed like about 400 from each side, so it was kind of a push. I mean, does that sound about right?
That sounds about accurate. At the Planning Commission meeting, we had 46 speakers, and 23 were in support and 23 were in opposition.
Okay. And you already spoke about the these tax things. This fiscal stuff is pretty complicated stuff, and I guess I'm not a bright guy, but that really confuses me. But so the idea is that in some situations we would get all the taxes, and then other situations we're splitting it. Basically, the county doesn't want to give up all the shares that they're receiving now, even though they would be probably providing very limited services in terms of the taxes they're receiving.
That's correct. The state's policy is to incentivize island annexations. Those are annexations of territory that are substantially surrounded by the county, or by the city, and to incentivize that, the county is compelled to give the city its full traditional share, or the 10.8%. But in non-island annexations, the county has a policy that's affectionately referred to as the share the pain policy, in which case the city has to split its traditional share with the county, so that the theory being that annexations don't adversely impact the fiscal solvency of counties. Both San Bernardino County and there are other counties in the state that have the same practice.
Okay, great. I noticed, and you mentioned it here in your report, I didn't see anything in the staff report, and maybe I missed it, about the park, right? So that was something that was approved by the Planning Commission in terms of public versus private, correct? So it's not something that we're considering tonight. That's already a done deal in terms of it being a private.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
There were no easements, or there were no other devices on the map for the subdivision that would have guaranteed public access, nor was the property granted to the city. And so the commission determined that it was a private park, and that the homeowners association would maintain and operate it. But that was approved as part of the map and site approval application before the Planning Commission.
So does the city have any position on, I've heard this argument and contention on both sides is that calling it a community park, I mean, is that a term that we use? And when we're using that, does that mean anything versus private versus public when somebody identifies it as a community park?
Not really. We have a listing of public parks in our general plan that have different designations, but they are common. What we would call as a community park is something more on the size of Ayala Park, something that serves the whole community or the whole city, and where something called a neighborhood park would be something in the realm of 3 to 5 acres. Pocket parks is what we call parks of this size, where they're generally an acre or less. So that's what we would call it. If it were a city park, we would call it a pocket park.
Okay, just two more quick questions. I noticed that part of this, our consideration and approve, is something related to a small lot development. So again, that's somewhat confusing for me because I'm thinking 13 acres, net 11 or whatever the case may be, and 39 homes and pretty square lot, plot of land. Why are we using the small lot development? Because my reading or understanding of a small lot development was more specific to 1 or 2 homes that may be in a flag lot consideration, can't really fit in there, and the side yards need to be adjusted and not fit into a standard development of 5 and 10, setbacks, and not moving the house frontage closer to the street. So why is this development then being considered for this small lot development? Or what is what's making up that?
I wish that code section were titled infill residential development standards, because that was the intent back with the general plan update in 2010. The city eliminated what we called a planned unit development standards, which that was something that's been around for a few decades, and what that would do is that would allow a developer to come in and kind of create their own standards for a particular development, depending on the level of amenities and other things. And so but that's kind of old-fashioned, that went away, and so the ordinance was revised to limit it to infill development in just a few residential categories. And so the purpose of that is because infill development is usually more constrained by existing streets that may need additional dedications, existing properties, different types of boundaries. It allows for some flexibility in some of the development standards in order to achieve a better design. So in this case, the developer is allowed to have a reduced front yard setbacks to allow for a larger rear yard area, as well as to accommodate a single-story plan. The subdivision that is at Philadelphia and Norton that was built a few years ago fell under these same rules, but all its lots are conforming. There's no small lots in there, but it was an L-shaped parcel, so it utilized these infill standards. And so the developer requested and was approved by the Planning Commission the use of these infill standards.
Okay, I'm going to save my last question for later. I think that's a better answer. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else have questions prior to the applicant's presentation? Okay. Okay, I'm going to limit the applicant to a 10-minute presentation, and I'd like to limit the public, because there's so many people, to 3 minutes per person. So I'd like to now call on the applicant to make his presentation.
Madam Mayor, council members, thank you for taking this project under consideration. I'm Lauren BORSTEIN with BORSTEIN Enterprises. Our company is family-owned, and we've done business in Chino for over 16 years. We take pride in every project we do. We work with local Chino businesses, we contribute to local organizations, and we listen to feedback. To give some context for how we fit into the neighborhood, as you can see behind you, the site's surrounded by smaller 7,200-foot lots catty-corner to the southeast. There's 16,500-foot lots to the south, with a large number of our supporters. To the east, as you can see, there's multiple homes per lot. And in the county, it's mostly non-conforming RD2 property where the properties are either too narrow or smaller than 20,000-foot lots. And most importantly, no property within the city adjacent to the site has lot sizes that actually do conform to RD2. Lastly, the proposed density of 3.2 per acre is less than 80% of the residentially zoned property in Chino. The project has been refined significantly over the last 3 years to provide an appropriate transition between these different lot sizes. In particular, the changes have included reducing the density to now 39 units. It originally started at 46 and then was 43 before the last council. We started predominantly as two-story product. Now it's 100% single-story based on neighborhood feedback. All of our floor plans and elevations changed to accommodate this neighborhood request. At Mayor Yaloa's request at the last council hearing, we widened all of our lots to allow for RV access on 2/3 of the project, which further decreased the density. Also at Mayor Yaloa's request, we increased the setback on our western boundary by an additional 20 feet. We added a larger entry parkway, we upgraded facades and landscaping, and we increased the parking to 229 spaces. And after you account for RV spaces and compact spaces, we're over double the code requirement. And as a result of these changes and working closely with stakeholders, we've arrived at a project that'll greatly enhance the community. This is what Francis currently looks like. Chino, and the Planning Commission agreed it advances the goals and objectives of the city's general plan, housing element, and land use element. In particular, the general plan and the housing element consistency. Goal 1 is to maintain and improve the quality of the existing housing stock. As you can see from these photos, we're significantly improving the infrastructure. In addition, we're transforming a blighted property and providing high-quality housing to an underserved area of the city that, quite frankly, has been left behind. Goal 2, assist in the provision to meet affordable housing needs in the community. Affordable housing is further defined as making homes more efficient, lower bills, innovative, accessible to persons with disabilities, and affordable to the local population. We have state-of-the-art homes, manageable lot sizes that require less upkeep, drought-tolerant landscaping, single-story homes that are accessible to those with disabilities, will offer more attainable price points compared to half-acre lots where there's no demand for $1.2 million homes, and that's what they'd have to be priced at given the infrastructure upgrades. Goal 3 provides housing to accommodate the city's RHNA requirement. Leaving nearly 80% of the SOI at half-acre lots is contrary to that goal. Further, stated objectives are to encourage a wide range of housing by location, not just in the preserve, to offer a variety of product types, not just half-acre lots in the north, to price it to meet the existing and future needs of residents, and to promote quality infill development of affordable housing. We do all this. And we're consistent with Goal 4 by providing a low-density product type that allows for housing production at attainable price points where there is market demand. In terms of the land use element, we enhance livability of Chino's neighborhoods. We maintain it by having walking facilities, biking. As you can see, Francis will be designed to accommodate a Class 3 bike lane, and we provide a clear transition for properties within the sphere of influence. Chino Francis is consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan, housing element, and land use element, and meets all the findings for a general plan amendment. So what are our impacts on the community? For traffic, the project would not have a significant impact on traffic, and we've done 5 intersections both in 2017 and 2019, studied by an independent traffic engineer and reviewed by the city. Schools. All 3 schools have excess capacity. Including the elementary and junior high are at half capacity. That's a real problem for teacher salaries. Infrastructure, there's plenty of infrastructure capacity, and we're adding $1.7 million in perimeter improvements. Animal keeping was brought up as something. There's only 1 animal keeping property adjacent to our property. We've also increased the setback by 20 feet. Single-story homes won't look down on their yards, and we've added a privacy hedge, and we'll give disclosures to those future buyers. The fiscal impact is a positive fiscal impact. And if you use the city standards under the SOI fiscal impact analysis, it's much more positive than the study we've given to in our report. And density, we provide an appropriate transition from RD 4.5 and 16,000 foot lots, and also with the multiple units to the east. Annexation, only the project area will be annexed, and that's why this project is not growth inducing. Further, the lots on the western and northern boundary are oversized and set a precedent for larger lots on the north and west, and this can be used as a model for Chino. Do we have the support of our neighbors? Over 544 individual supporters, excluding duplicates, supported the project. When you then add the support cards we got today, that's 663 supporters. That's significantly higher than the opposition. We don't have any duplicates in this number. In addition, 460 supporters within the last few months alone, as we've gone door to door, held community meetings, sent mailers, e-blasts, created online videos, more than we've ever done before, and we've gone above and beyond to share the benefits of our project. And most importantly, we have the immediate neighbor support, as you can see. But even so, we do recognize that there are some opponents to this project who are afraid of what this project could lead to and are resistant to change. But this project's not growth inducing, and times have changed. Your own general plan is intended to be flexible and adjust to changes. In particular, housing needs to be more sustainable, which includes more manageable yards. Chino's population is growing and expected to go up by 50% in the next 20 years. The population is aging, as is the need for single-story homes. ADA compliance increases the need for sidewalks, accessibility ramps, streetlights, etc. All of those things are sorely missing around this site, and the lack of housing supply is worse than ever, and keeping price points attainable is even more challenging when your own studies that say the realistic capacity for residential lots outside the preserve and within the city is almost gone. It was 522 units in 2013 and less now. So RENA numbers, now that they require the city to produce 6,500 units, where are they going to go? Capacity needs to come from the SOI, and leaving 79% of it at half-acre lots will only worsen the crisis. So select infill projects like ours that meet the goals and objectives of the general plan are what's needed to address this crisis, and we're this type of project. So in conclusion, Chino Francis Estates is an attractive project that'll transform the area and revitalize a vacant, blighted property. The project's low density by all standards and provides a transition from larger lots on the northern and western boundaries. The project provides significant infrastructure upgrades and safety enhancements in an area left behind. The landscape parkways and sidewalks will be enjoyed by the public. Improvements to the existing and new housing stock in the area will be significant. It fulfills a community need for single-story homes at attainable price points on large lots in northern Chino. And it contributes to the city's RENA requirement as realistic capacity for remaining lots is shrinking. And provides a sensible transition for the surrounding land uses. It's consistent with all the goals and policies of the general plan and has a positive fiscal impact and will contribute nearly $2 million a year to the local economy through personal spending. And lastly, it has the support of a tremendous number of residents. Thank you for your consideration.
Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor. Mayor. You may
Yes.
wish to clarify if the applicant will have time for rebuttal and how much time that would be.
Yes, you will have a 5-minute time to rebut after the public request to speak. Okay, now again, we have a whole stack and more coming of requests to speak. So I do ask you to please not duplicate each other. If you wish, if there's a group here that believe in the same thing, maybe you could have your neighbors stand up and show support. The one that I was just handed, I'll go ahead and call, and that's Roman Nava. He represents the Building Industry Association of Southern California.
It's always difficult when you're this tall. Sorry, got to adjust it a little bit here. Good evening, everybody. I am Roman Nava, longtime resident of the Chino Valley, 19 years. But here tonight, I am wearing the hat of the Building Industry Association of Southern California. The Building Industry Association represents over 1,100 members that are involved in making the American dream come true. And tonight, I have a statement that I'd like to read. Earlier today, I was able to send a copy of this letter to the city clerk with some attachments. Hopefully, Ms. Robles was able to forward that on to your agenda packet. The Building Industry Association of Southern California, Untitled Chapter, would like to share information about California's severe housing shortage and the benefits of the new home development. For nearly 2 decades, California has been in the midst of a historical housing crisis in which we are short an estimate 2 million homes statewide. In San Bernardino County, our housing shortage now reaches 70,000 homes. Governor Newsom has made addressing the housing crisis a central theme of his administration, both through the executive action and the legislative process. The Southern California Association of Governments, or as we know, SCAG, has determined that Chino needs 6,500 new homes to meet the Regional Needs Housing Assessment, as we call RENA, allocation of 5th cycle goals. Providing a wide range of homes at various socio-economic levels will ensure young families, seniors, and veterans have an opportunity for home ownership. New housing also contributes millions of dollars through fees and taxes for the expansion of local infrastructure such as schools, roads, water, sewer, parks, police, and fire services, as well as flood control. Currently, the Chino receives approximately $33,000 in development impact fees per home when built in the general city zone. Cal State San Bernardino recently published a study that found communities with increased home ownership experiences several positive social economic benefits, including increased educational attainment, lower poverty rates, and less crime, both violent and property crimes. Chino Francis Estates and other infill housing is a positive for the city and meets the local demand in the market and improves the neighborhood and community as a whole. We look forward to helping the city of Chino meet their RENA housing goals for 2020 and beyond. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Roman. Next is Brenda Elric.
Hello, my name is Brenda Elric, and I live south of the property in Lacassie Court. And I just want to say that the developer has come to our home and has talked to us and has taken in consideration and changed a lot of the plans that they had first started. And that's why now you see the single-family homes now. And I just wanted to say that I support it and that they've been very, very respectful in our needs and what we would like to see there. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, I'm a resident of the Chino, and I live right next to the estate project. And based on what information I got, I think they're really good for the neighborhood. You know, the brighter and cleaner, and definitely it will raise the property, value of our neighborhood. I support this program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David Baer.
Yes, the human condition is that we resist change with every ounce of our being. If you don't believe that, park in your neighbor's space. But the problem is with that, and what causes that condition is the only force in the universe that is completely, unable to be stopped is change. So that's what creates the feeling that we're helpless against the change that's coming our way, but we are helpless against the change that's coming our way. The only question is, how do we embrace that change? Do we keep things the way they have been? Or do we move in a progressive way toward a community where people are buying houses that they're going to live in until their kids graduate from college, and that they're going to live in their retirement, or bring their mother-in-law in to stay with them? Or are we going to build the kind of housing that people are going to flip in 1 or 2 years and then move on to another community, to another job, and like that? That's, I think, is where we really need to focus, is the emphasis on the kind of change that will leave people in our community that are community-oriented, that want the community to develop. I look at our slogan, where everything grows. Well, the only way we can grow is to change in a positive manner. And for that reason, I support this project, and I support the people that put it together, who seem to have gone through as many hoops as they can to make sure that they follow the requirements set forth by the city and by the state and by the county. Thank you.
David, I have a question. I'm just curious. You live in Chino Hills?
I do have a residence in Chino Hills, yes.
Are you going to move to Chino?
I'm planning on, the plans are up in the air at this point in time. Basically, we're just kind of waiting to see what the market does.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Please, no comments. Melissa, no last name, just Melissa.
My name is Melissa, and I live on La Mesita Court, and I am thrilled that this project is coming to our area. It's needed, and I think I could have a show of hands of people who are in agreement with this project. Maybe I'll save some time, but thank you for your consideration. It's a really good project.
Thank you. Christy Andridge.
Hi, I'm Christy Andridge, and I would just like to share my perspective. I'm often found to say, hey, you have to look at it from other people's perspective. It's all about that. So as I glance out my kitchen window, this is what I currently see. 2 rows of chain link fencing dotted with no trespassing and private property signs. The chain link has thick dead branches that are woven through it from some long forgotten plant, kind of like garland left on a dead Christmas tree. I see the dirt shoulder along Francis, which is scattered with weeds, trash, and occasionally a sofa or some other item. There are utility poles lining the street, and at night, it's dark, really dark. There is not any real lighting on Francis right there, other than the glow that comes from people's homes. Sometimes cars hit that dip at Yorba. It's a double dip, too fast because they can't see it, until it's too late. We hear a screech, boom, boom. Quite frequently during the day too, but more at night. Behind the fence, I see a few green trees, some dead trees, and a fallen tree. That's my view right now. I see some green weeds, which in a few months are going to turn brown. As I walk outside and I look down towards Ramona, I see old rabbit cages from a rabbit farm that hasn't ever had rabbits in it in the 30 years that I've lived in Chino at that location. When summer comes, the lot will turn brown and dry, and I'll start looking out that window of mine more often because I'll start to worry about a fire that could start in that area. Comes to 4th of July, I'm always home on 4th of July. I will not leave my property. There are so many illegal fireworks in our area, and I always worry that a tree on that property could catch fire and blow into someone else's home. I do see an occasional squirrel over there, some hawks. I've even seen a peahen behind the fence, and I love seeing those things. But a bigger concern is when I see people entering that lot who don't belong there, and then I start to worry about why they're there and what they're going to do. But this is what I would like to see. I would like to look out my window, see an improved and widened Francis lined with landscape walkways. I won't miss the telephone poles because the utilities will be underground, and I'm gonna love those street lights that light that area up so people see the dip. Instead of hearing boom, boom of the car, I hope to hear laughter of the children in the park. I look forward to meeting the families who come here. Council members and our mayor, please support this project. Say yes for Chino Francis Estate. It's a quality of life issue for those of us that live here. Don't make us wait any longer. Thank you.
Tara Lang.
Hello. The high traffic volume is already a cause for concern. The Ramona and Phillips Cross Street traffic is chaotic and time-consuming, as well as the cross streets of Monte Vista and Phillips, where the stop signs diagonally crisscross. Both of these intersections will be directly affected by the Francis Estates community. It would drastically change this area's traffic volume. We, the people, the ones who actually live here, will be greatly affected by the change. There will be a lot more traffic on our quiet neighborhood streets. There are no sidewalks to walk on Yorba, as well as Francis. This higher volume of traffic will completely change the dynamic of the area, especially Yorba Street, as well as Francis. Francis will essentially turn into a high-traffic street. This will flood all the streets in this particular area. The huge factor in this traffic dilemma is 39 new houses versus 26. Each of these houses is being represented as multi-generational housing. That is at least 2 cars per house, but most likely 3 or even 4 per house. So potentially, we are looking at 78 more cars at the very least, 117 with 3 cars per house, or 156 more cars if 4 cars per house. A once quiet rural zoned area will now be flooded with higher traffic, louder noise, and become less safe for our kids to walk on. The fact that there will be only one entrance and exit opening on the Francis side seems like it would be a bit of a fire hazard or somewhat dangerous if there was a blockage. Once a change like this takes place, there is no going back. We will always have time to have the option to build more. Guidelines were made for a reason, and they should be respected and taken into consideration. What should also be considered is that this company, BORSTEIN, knew what he was buying when he bought this lot. He also knew what area he was buying this property in and should respect the property zoning and the surrounding neighbors. The issue at hand with BORSTEIN seems to be nothing more than plain and simple greed. Many factors will be affected by such an increase in traffic. We already have the new Orchard Square community going up for sale soon on Central and Francis, across from the new Montecito community. This will greatly increase the traffic as well in this same area at hand. All these factors must be taken into consideration when making your decision, how it will change this area in a huge way.
Ma'am, you're out of time.
Okay, that was the end.
Please wrap up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Craig Andridge.
Mayor, council, we've lived across the street from this track, my wife spoke earlier, for 32 years. We raised our kids there. Our kids went to local school, continued to college. They've become great citizens. They've given us 8 grandkids. They have grown.
How many kids do you have?
2 girls.
2 girls, 8 grandkids.
They compete.
They've been busy.
7 of those are 9 years old and younger, down to 10 months. We're for this. We've been for it from the beginning. As people have mentioned, with the builders or the property owners coming through, they have met every requirement that we've asked them to change. I think they're forward-looking. I appreciate what they have come through with over the last 2.5 years, change-wise. So from Lakazi Court, we're for the program. Thank you.
Okay. Vince Otis.
City council members, I come before you tonight extremely emotional. This has been a 2.5-year project that has been put on the back burner and delayed for numerous reasons. I had the pleasure of being on the SOI committee and looking at how this project would affect that. I also live adjacent to the project, and I've lived there for over 20 years, raised my kids in Chino, been actively involved in youth sports in the city of Chino, and even taken home a few trophies from the corn-fed car show. So I want to tell you, there's folks within this room that have set a bunch of double standards. That being Larry Walker and the Protect Chino crowd, and their approach both on social media and their approach just in general. They have taken the Lakazi Court street neighborhood of which I live and reside in La Mesita to a level that's just downright disrespectful.
Sir, I would request, instead of bashing either side, I ask all of you, please just stick to either your support or opposition.
Mayor, I'm not here to bash. This has been 2.5 years of a lot of challenge.
Just your support.
So I want to tell you, I've picked up lots of trash in the area. I've seen the drugs. I've seen the couches and the tables and the chairs that folks have dropped off. This community deserves more than that. I'm a proud member of the city of Chino. My quality of life has been affected by having this vacant parcels across the street from where I live not being developed. In today's society, half-acre parcels are just very costly. If you look at the infrastructure to support that, the water, and all the resources that it takes. Again, and not being disrespectful, there are those out there that say that we have to stick to the city charter. And as a few of us have already said, it's not feasible in today's society. Mayor, you have the fortune of living on a large parcel. I run by there on occasions, and I love the landscaping and the way you present your house. But in today's area, it's just not feasible to have those type of lots in this area. I respect the fact that people want animals. I respect the fact that people want yards. But this project brings that.
Sir, you're out of time.
Okay.
Thank you very
Mayor.
much. Oh, gosh. Duran, but I can't. L-O... What is your first name? Lewis. Gosh, Lewis, your writing's almost as bad as mine.
Yeah, my penmanship is atrocious. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Louis Duran. I live at 4602 La Mesita, adjacent to this property. I'm a retired captain in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, 36 years of service. I've lived in the area about 30 years. I'm in support of the project, let me tell you. It's a beautiful project, one-story homes and great lot sizes. These lot sizes are complementary transition between the surrounding uses. Mostly adheres to the Chino general plan, with only a minor change. The change from R2 to RD45. It's somewhere in the middle between R2 and R45. You know, they said it's 3.2. You're in the middle. It's somewhere, what opponents want is R2. Currently, the homes will start around $800,000 at this project. If they get the R2 lots, the homes will be starting at $1.4 million. Who's gonna wanna live here? Who can afford to live in this area? Who's gonna pay $1.4 million for those homes? The adjacent county area is plagued with lawlessness. I know, I live on the county line, okay? It's plagued with code violations, lawlessness, where it's used for other land uses other than residential. An aerial view of the area, you can look at it. You'll find industrial operations, you'll find trucking companies, you'll find concrete operations. You don't find livestock, very little livestock. You find cockfighting. The other day we had 2 people shot right down in Francis, just down the street. I mean, it's beautiful what goes on in the county area, these R2 lots. Let's not mention the unruly party, shots fired, illegal trash dumping, all year long. You know, she says illegal fireworks, that's the minor. It's the shots fired. All this with lackluster response from the county. Only excuses, that's all I ever get. I know I live in the county line, and those calls for action go unanswered. The Meritage project down there, I thank you for approving that project. I noticed also the next councilman lives there now. I know that the ex-chief of police, city planner, those are 4.5. Those are close to 4.5 designation. Our lot designation for this project adjacent to my house is bigger lots. For the sake of public safety and the quality of life here, I am urging you, all of you on the council here, to please vote for this project. I urge you to pass it. Thank you.
Michael Gonzalez. Michael Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been a resident here for 22 years in Chino, and I commend you and the City Council for the plan that you guys have come up with in terms of the retail businesses that have been established out here for many years. And I came out here, this is the first time I've ever come to a meeting like this. 2 reasons. I really think this is a really great program and proposal for the city. And number 2, I see stuff on social media, and the reason I wanted to come is I know for a fact that BORSTEIN, they're not greedy. I know, I researched them. They give money to City of Hope, they give money to Ronald McDonald House, and they give money to local high schools. I know that's for a fact. I have a student at Chino High School. I have 2 students at Chino High School, and I know that they recently gave a large donation to the band program there. And if you don't know, there's like at least 73% of the kids that come from low-income housing, and the parents there have a lot of problems trying to fund the band program there. And Mr. BORSTEIN, got word that we were in need, and they stepped forward and gave us a donation. So that's not the reason I'm here. I'm here because I think it's a good idea. I want to support my brethren out here who live in that area. I live over there by Schaefer and Chino, and I think it's a really good plan, and I hope that you'll vote yes for it. Thank you.
Norberto Sotelo.
Members of the council.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Oh. Members of the council, my name is Norbert Sotelo, and my wife and I live on Sarah Avenue, a block east of the proposed Chino Francis Estate project. We have lived there for 45 years. We believe that this project is a good one for the city for the following reasons. One, it provides upscale housing for the city, and it improves a blighted area. It also gives the citizens of Chino control over the zoning in the future. Two, it provides the city with some upscale housing to go along with its older homes, since we're an older city, and at the same time provides a mixture of affordable condominiums and apartments that are already located in the city and other locations of the city. Three, in this era of high housing costs, affordability is a big problem. My concern is that cities like Chino will be forced to alter their zoning laws. Because this property is in the county, if we turn this project down, this property the county may decide on its own to provide high-density, affordable housing. Developers will be looking especially at cities like Chino with lots of infill land close to transportation corridors like freeways, bus and train services to get to jobs. The city of Chino fits this plan perfectly. Our city will be a big target for affordable housing. The city is in close proximity
Sir, you have 1 minute left.
to jobs in LA and Orange counties, not out in the boonies where the long distance commute drives for people. So let us do the right thing and provide for a balanced community of upscale and affordable housing on our own terms. This parcel of land could be the beginning of forced zoning by the state.
Sir,
And lastly,
you're almost out of time.
yeah, lastly, things are changing rapidly in our city. The days of cornfields and strawberry farms and dairies and large horse ranches are disappearing. We must take charge now if we want to have a say on how our city will look like in the future. Respectfully, Norbert Sotelo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Happy to be here. My name is Richard Gonzalez. I'm a resident and homeowner in the city of Chino. I live in the east part of Chino, but I'm in this area a lot because we have some very good friends who live right down the block from the project site. The reason I'm here is because I was looking at the Champion a few months ago and I saw this project. And I thought, what a great example, what a great development. And so I investigated a little further and realized where it was located and what the plan was. And I thought, wow, I'm impressed. So I decided I was going to just come and support. I retired a couple years ago after a 40-year career in local government, working in community development in many cities, about 7 different cities, as an urban planner, a redevelopment official, a public works staff member, and the last 13 years for the city of Riverside as a construction manager. So I have seen a lot of different developments. I have been involved in a lot of different improvements. And when I looked at this project, to me, it checked all the boxes. Good urban planning, good example of a wonderful layout, compatibility, the density, check. Economic development for the city, improvements, 39 families that get to live in this area of the city, check. Wonderful architecture, one-story architecture. That's what I was impressed with because I thought, I could live here. I wish I could live here. So maybe that might happen. Can't do the stairs too much anymore at getting to be my age. So I had hip replacement surgery recently, so hopefully that helps me a little bit more. But that's what I wanted to say. I'm fully in support. I have no connection to the developer. I have only the love and caring of the city that I hope keeps improving, and I think this is going to be a great step in moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Alana Carson. Alana Carson. Travel time. I don't think so.
There has been a lot said about the Chino's general plan. It's been held up to scrutiny, labeled as a dying document on one hand, and on the other, a document that's alive and designed to accommodate the future as well as preserve the past. But there's another document I haven't heard anything spoken of. That document is the City of Chino Municipal Code. I would like to highlight Section 20.123.060, Zone Changes and Amendments, subsection G. In reviewing a zone change or amendment application, the recommending and approving authority shall consider and clearly establish the following, giving specific reasons as to how each of the findings has been met. Number one, the proposed change or amendment is consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan. Strike one. Number two, is reasonable and beneficial and in the interest of good zoning practice. Zoning changes that contribute to reducing the city to a patchwork quilt of zoning pockets are inconsistent with good zoning practice. Strike two. Number three, will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. No precautionary measures are being taken to enable existing infrastructures to effectively manage the increased usage inherent with large square footage homes able to accommodate half a dozen residents or more. Strike three. Number four, will not adversely affect the harmonious relationship with adjacent parcels and land uses. And number five, the subject site is physically suitable, including but not limited to availability of utilities and compatibility with adjoining land uses. The majority of the properties north and west of the BORSTEIN project are, among other uses, employed as heavy equipment or RV parking facilities, or actively support livestock or nursery stock, of which there are at least 5 nurseries within walking distance of the proposed development. Strikes 4 and 5. The proponents of the project vow that its approval sets no precedents when there is an abundance of precedents already all around us. College Park and the preserve begat Monterey Place, and several other developments that almost begat the unreasonable Brewer project at Francis and Benson that was so soundly and rightly defeated as to ultimately be completely abandoned. I have detailed 5 strikes against the Chino Municipal Code by the BORSTEIN project. How many does it take, Council? How many does it take? As with most disagreements, there are 2 sides to the BORSTEIN project. It is the Planning Commission's job to make their recommendations based on their impartial analysis of the project's pros and cons and the comments put forth by the city's residents. It is the City Council's job to make the final decision based upon public opinion as well as the recommendations of the Planning Commission should they be found to be well-reasoned, free of partiality, and consistent with the general plan and the municipal codes. The City Council is an imperfect institution in the best of times. In this instance, we charge you with doing your utmost to be the best institution in imperfect times. The time for vigilance and caution is now, ladies and gentlemen.
You're out of time, Alana.
Not a year or more into the future when the proponents south of Francis on their half-acre lots are standing in their shirt sleeves pointing at increasingly smaller lot developments all around, shrugging and saying,
Alana, you
oops.
must stop. Thank you. Steve, okay, Steve, he lives on Ramona. Atkinson? Is it Atkinson?
Atkinson, yes.
Atkinson, okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I need to give a little bit of background before I make my appeal. We've lived here for 35 years. We, in fact, live on Francis and Ramona, right on that corner. I've had a business here for 30 years, but in 2000, I started an organization called Take Back the Neighborhood. And so we worked with the police department, code enforcement, and we picked an adopt-a-block area like F Street, G Street. And so we would roll 40-yard dumpsters into that area. And one home had 4 of those every other weekend. We'd be there for 3 to 4 years. We went door to door and found out the names and sizes and ages and genders of their children and gave them Christmas gifts for the 2 or 3 years. And so also I was a part of working with Miles Pruitt when he was a sergeant, and Gene Hernandez was the chief, and we worked together to develop the community support team. And in my appeal of the years I was with Take Back the Neighborhood, I never did get any CDGB funds, by the way, so I don't feel bad about that. But anyway, I'm telling you that story because we were concerned about the blight in the city. And so we went door to door, and those properties are huge on F&G Street in that neighborhood. And as we move forward, my wife and I would go to parks and feed the homeless. Now, interestingly, they would not want us to feed the homeless because that would cause them to reside in those parks. And so we were kind of told, hey, we don't want you to feed the people. So as we move forward recently, in our neighborhood, which is on Francis and Ramona, we've had a lot of thefts in that area now, and of people that are not recognizable that are walking those streets. And because of that area that's there, the blight of that area there, they're going to continue to do that. And so I'm just making an appeal to you that in my feelings about the blight of Chino and all the things that made it a better community, I'd like you to consider the blight that is affecting our community.
Sir, you have 1 minute.
And how that would be helpful if you change that whole area, because those people would probably go somewhere else. So I just appreciate that.
Thank you.
In support of the project.
Ashlyn Agee. Ashlyn Agee.
Hello, Eunice, Tom, Mark, and Paul. My name is Ashlyn Agee, and I am the proxy for Richard Agee. I am sorry I cannot be here today, but I must suffer through a 2-week vacation anniversary with my wife in Hawaii. My family and I have lived in Chino
Tell
for
your
about...
dad that's no excuse. He should be here.
My family and I have lived in Chino for about 36 years, and I have seen this valley change a lot in that time. Plenty for the good and some for the bad. I tell people all the time I miss the cows, but smells can be an inconvenience, but you get used to them. The influx of people, on the other hand, well, more people just cause more problems in general. If it wasn't for the fact that I have come to get to know the developers and their project a bit, I might have been on the other side of the fence on this issue. And I am just talking about this issue, this project. I have come to hear a great deal of things from people on both sides of the issue. It is funny, during these debates of things, during debates like this one, people tend to exaggerate facts, sometimes make things up, and then start to actually believe what they've exaggerated or made up as fact. I've heard someone say that the developers are the cause of any and all criminal activity on the property. Well, that is just ridiculous and ignorant. I also heard naive people state that the property should be declared historical or turned into a grow-up or park. Well, that sounds great, but come on, let's get our heads out and get into reality. The property has been stagnant and a blight on the community for a time now. I have spoken to law enforcement and neighbors to the community, and trouble started long before BORSTEIN Enterprises arrived. After they purchased the property is when they discovered the problems and needed security. That is where my company, Apollo Protective Services, came in almost 2.5 years ago, and it has been a roller coaster ever since. This property has several things going on, and it seems few actually know what goes on. The unwanted trespasser is the highlight. Illegal dumping happens regularly, and large diesel trucks and RVs park along Francis on a regular basis. This is because people are opportunists and take advantage of areas that are not watched over or lived at, not because a developer wants to push their project through. I understand why people are against this. I am actually against new developments in Chino as well. I miss the simpler times. Reasonable people, like you 5, need to help take the reins and do what's right for our community. We have all heard about the alternative, and no one wants that. A yes decision on this project does not mean developers will have the right to start dictating terms. This is and will always be a discussion and a debate. Yes and no apply throughout. I would hope that you, the City Council, will always stand firm on what is best for everyone and not just for yourself or a few.
Okay, Ashlyn, you're out of time.
Thank you for listening to me through my proxy. Aloha.
Thank you very much. Aloha. Jerry Rowe.
Mayor, City Council. My name is Jerry Rowe. I do not live in the city of Chino, but I live in the sphere of influence for 28 years. I'd like to use my time to point out a few facts. Tonight, the Chino's general plan is at risk of being changed for the sole benefit of maximizing profit for a developer. For some reason, the developers feel they know more about establishing zoning requirements for Chino than the City Council. It's hard to believe that the City of Chino spends thousands of dollars to have experts analyze the best potential growth for the city and the sphere of influence just to be challenged by developers. It just seems to me a waste of taxpayers' funds to establish a general plan that makes these types of spot changes for developers maximum profit. Developers come to Chino, nibble on the best locations, increase the profits by having the zoning change, while not considering the long-term effects the development will have on the surrounding residents. To me, they treat the city like roadkill, swooping down, nibbling on the best parts, then leaving the bones for the surviving residents to deal with. I'd like to ask the City Council to adhere to the general plan and reject the development. The City of Chino has land zone in the general plan of 2 to an acre. The San Bernardino County is about to change it to 2 to an acre. The Monte Vista Water District supplies water to this development, has just established their new allocations of 2 to an acre there. The Sphere of Influence Committee has recommending this, all the Sphere of Influence using the general plan at the time of annexation is currently R2. So many separate entities, all on the same page, the future growth of Chino. The developers feel they know best for Chino and keep pushing that change. They knew when they purchased the land, the zoning was R2. The developer has a full intention of increasing the zoning to a higher density value when they purchased it. If approved, they plan on selling the property or joint venturing it with an actual builder. If you view BORSTEIN's website, they do not build homes, they finance a joint venture. Residents have walked door to door collecting over 400 or more, because I know there's a mess up on the count, signed petitions opposing the development from the surrounding impact area. They do not need to offer a $250 prize for signatures or run full-page ads in the entire city, get the city's opinion. These petitions are the ones we have are real, not generated through social media. We are not here to stop development, Chino. We just want development through intelligent planning, and that is what the general plan offers the residents. Chino needs to grow, but not by killing the roots that have made it one of the most demand locations for families to raise their children. Thank you.
Oh, well, this is interesting. Somebody didn't put their name down. So at the end of this, if I didn't call on you, it's because you didn't list your name. Manuel Hernandez.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. My name is Manuel Hernandez. In 1972, my father bought a house here in Chino because he wanted to take his family out of this mid-cities where crime, gangs, things were really rough where we lived in the mid-city in Los Angeles. We came to Chino because it was an open area. It was a desirable area where people wanted to come and raise their families in 1972. My mother-in-law actually watched your children for many years. Loopy, yes. So with that, I don't, I see the yes, and I see protect Chino. They all have good, valid issues. But the issue here is that the general plan is the general plan, and we need to stick to it, adhere to that general plan. We need homes, but when you see that people are being run over on Central and Francis more now than they were before because there are people that are walking their dogs crossing that street and it's still dark and they just put up a bunch of brand new homes there. We don't want issues like that at the Francis Estates. It's a great development. It's a good idea. I'm all for development. It's just that it's too many homes. We need to stick to the general plan. I am for the project, yet I am not for changing the general plan. Thank you.
Lance Ford.
Hi, I'm Lance Ford. I live on Lakazi. My backyard faces a proposed project. I'm here to speak in support. I have lived in Chino for 54 years. My family moved into one of the first tract developments on this side of the city. There were open parcels, citrus groves, small farms, and an egg ranch surrounding our home. I have witnessed all the growth that has followed over the years. This proposed community would be one of the finest to be built in the nearby surrounding area. I believe all of us here tonight want the same thing. We want what is best for our neighborhood and our city. Many of us who are on opposite sides tonight, we're on the same side against Measure H, and we are not enemies. We are friends and neighbors. I believe that this project, unlike Measure H, is appropriate in its density and design, and I would like you to see it go forward.
Larry Lotta.
Mayor, Councilman, I've lived here since 1943, so I've noticed the changes that we have seen considerably over the years. Two issues. One is a considerable amount of monies, effort, and energy went into making a plan. It's great when a plan comes together. When you perturbate a plan, there's always repercussions or things that do go awry when you mess with a plan. So I watch the changes. I feel for the people that come and bought in a rural area. Maybe they come from a neighborhood that had streetlights and they like streetlights. I was raised on the north side of Chino. There were no streetlights, so I don't mind the no streetlights. So I see both sides. But we do have a plan. I just request that you honor the plan. If it is a blighted area now, possibly, maybe, whoever owns the lot could have been renting it on a short-term lease to a strawberry grower, and the community could have fresh vegetables in a nice, clean neighborhood instead of letting it go to blight, okay? But looking at what happens across California is developers do come in, purchase a piece of property, let it turn to utter crap. We can't have that in our neighborhood, and then he maximizes his potential and his profit and goes away smiling off to another venture. Because that's the name of the game, is to make money. But the people that live in a place, collectively, the community has to guard against that to ensure that the longevity of their plan and their ideas stays the way someone had dreamed it and formed it and hoped that it would come together at some time downstream. Thank you for your time.
Lauren Struxma.
Thank you for letting me talk here, Madam Mayor and the council member, please. I'm going to go a little bit on a different angle here. So I'm going to go, what if the city of Chino housing influence? Okay, basically, your objective is to ensure long-term use of existing housing stock to maintain a small-town character. Okay, also in HE5, it says promote equal housing opportunity for all residents to reside in the housing of their choice. Basically, Chino residents that haven't had a choice here, that's all they had is high-density, two-story homes. We have a project here that me and my wife think would be very important to the city of Chino. It would be just a great project. Okay, also what scares me with what's going to happen on the high density front. Okay, land use. It says overall general plan land use policies. The city of Chino, 2025 general plan was adopted in 2010 to expand employment of housing opportunity in Chino. The general plan land use element creates a new high-density residential RD30, 30 homes per acre. Okay, several mixed-use designation mix of medium density, which is 20 units per acre. Since the adoption of the general plan and the city update of zoning ordinance to implement the mixed-use designs of 20 and 30, however, though, the new zoning districts to implement high-density residential designation has not been created yet. So what's going to happen? The city council will be changing zonings. And here's my little deal here. We have here residential site inventory. These are vacant properties in the city of Chino. We have Central Avenue Pacific Plan, 4.7 area, RD1, 3.3 RD1. We have, that's basically over there by Chino and Francis area. We have 17.4 acres, RD8.
Lauren, you have 1 minute left.
Huh?
You have 1 minute left.
I don't, okay. So basically what's happening here in this thing, I think I should have more time because of data. Okay, we have RD1, we have 10 homes that are going to be built in Chino. We're going to have RD2 where we have 7.8 homes. RD45, they're going to build 240 homes. RD8, they're going to have 199 homes. RD12, they're going to put 30 homes. RD14, they're going to have 114 homes. RD20, they're going to have 177 homes. So out of all these here, you're going to have 17 homes that are only 1 acre and RD2. So, come on, this is all high density that's going to be happening in the city of Chino. So I think this property here is a good project to be, and I think the council members should all vote yes on this. Thank you.
Carol Yonan. Carol Yonan? Okay.
Good evening. I'm in favor against the project only because we need to stick to the general plan that we have now. I've lived in Chino for probably about 40 years now. 30 years in the house I'm in now, which is an acre. I love it. I love no street lights. I love no sidewalks. It's perfect for me. But we need to stick with the general plan that we have now. I think there should be housing there, but not the big plan that they want to make. It should be what the general plan was meant to have there. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Laughlin.
Madam Mayor, members of the council and city staff, there are a lot of issues on this project, and I think many of them are much bigger than the project itself. But the general plan has designated this area for a certain density, and has for many years, as the Monte Vista Water District has. The low-density nature of this part of the sphere area is also been quantified by such things as the Prado Dam even. There's concern now about the capacity of the spillway of Prado Dam because of that watershed has been developed more intensely than it was proposed to when the Prado Dam facility was designed by the Army Corps of Engineers. All of these issues are complex and difficult to quantify, but in general, if there's no other plan than the existing plan, then it seems logical to me that that existing plan should be the one that should be used. I have to commend the city, though, for the SOI, the steering committee process that they've gone through, because I really think the city and the county have to come up with a more long-term plan, land use plan for the SOI area. I know that's extraordinarily difficult. I know that probably more so than most people in this room because of my profession. But I would just encourage the city to make a prudent decision based upon the existing general plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Rick? Elverick? Is it Elverick? Elric.
Good evening, Council. I'll make it short and sweet. I've lived on Lacassie Court for 31 years. I've just seen that area with drugs. I mean, my wife and I walk around the neighborhood and there's needles from drug users, there's condoms, there's things like that, and it's all coming from that area. As a matter of fact, there's somebody living in that house right now. The developer has been straight up. If he sells this off, he has snowballed a bunch of people in green shirts tonight, because I'll tell you what, he has done everything they have said they would do for us as we changed it throughout the years. And if this development does not go through, I'm going to hate to see what Gavin Newsom's going to want to put there. You're going to have a tent city or something else. I mean, who knows? Because they want to fight the homeless. Who knows what they're going to put in there? And what they're proposing is something that we really need for that area. Thank you for my time.
Michael Sherman.
My name is thank you. That works better. My name is Michael Sherman. I've been a resident in Chino for a little over 5 years. I live on Monte Vista, just south of Philadelphia. Let me start out by saying I address change by welcoming new homes that follow the city's approved upon general plan. This map reflects, it's hard to see because it's not zoomed in, but every single dot that we have verified addresses for people that sign the wet signature for the Protect Chino cause, which is to not change the general plan. The yellow area. I encourage all of you to take a look if you get a chance. There are a few green dots on there reflecting the other side. There are 7 of them. They're the only ones that we have addresses we're able to verify. And I noticed on this sheet, on this flyer, brochure, that they don't mention anything about a zone change, current zoning, proposed zoning, or anything about that. And we cannot verify, I mean, they can, but we didn't get that copy to verify addresses. I encourage the council members to compare the number of dots on this map compared with the map supplied by the developer or investor. My main reason for being here is I moved to Chino 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, and I saw that lot that they're talking about, and I said, wow, that's pretty cool. I grew up in La Habra. There used to be a very...
You have 1 minute, Michael.
Used to be an agricultural area there too, and now it's not. And I like seeing empty space. We need housing. I'm okay with the housing. I don't want to have it packed in. I have one question for the council, if I may. If the 3.2 homes per acre, I think it is, that they proposed, if that is approved and they change the zoning, are they able to go back and change their their drawings or their plan to higher density to match the 4.5?
Not without starting all over again.
Okay. And that's it. Once you lose fertile land, Chino has very, very great soil. I'm a gardener. I know it's awesome soil. Once you lose that land for homeowner use, for whatever uses those homes, the homeowners might use, it's gone forever. You can't take a...
You're up for
Okay.
time.
Thank you very much.
Karen Gonzalez.
I just wanted to let you know that I live directly across the street from this project. It's the best thing that could happen to our community, and I'm 100% for it. Thank you.
Bill Ackerman. All right, it's getting down there.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for taking your time. I live directly across the street from the estate, the new development. My backyard is Francis. I see the trash. I see the semis that use it as a parking lot. I see the motorhomes that park there for days. I'm asking you for your approval of this project. I can't wait for anything better. I want to see sidewalks. I want to see lights. I walk my dog every day down Yorba, and there's no sidewalks, there's no lights. I see all the trash that's there. It's something I see every day. I live there. I'm not from another city telling you how we should do our thing. I live across the street. I've seen Mr. Rodriguez come to our community. I'm not sure if any of you have, but he's in our community. He comes out, he talks to us. I ask that all you come out and look and see what's there. I think you've all seen pictures of the trash that's been laid there the last couple months. I think you've all been emailed that information. All I ask is, come out and see what we have. Look at what it is. It's an old field it's a dumping ground because people on Francis, they think, oh, there's nothing there, I'm just gonna dump trash there. It happens every month. It's just a continual thing. And I ask that you come out and look at it and vote yes, because we sure need an upgrade. Thank you.
Wade Shuey.
Hello, City Council, Mayor. My name's Wade Shuey. I'm a owner of an architecture firm out of Ontario. So usually I'm on the other side of this, pleading a case for bigger development with more impacts than not to a community. Now I'm on the other side of the fence because this is something that's impacting us landowners that are up in a more rural area that we moved to, bought into, sold. And essentially, I'm gonna tell you what this is not. This is not the bright, shiny screen what they presented here. These things that they are showing in renderings are just that, they're renderings. What actually gets developed is much smaller cases without the trees and the pretty glamour and all the glitz. It's very one-sided to the development because that's how developers operate. I know, I do this day in and day out. So in presenting the small case that I have, I urge you guys to say no on this and go to a more broader look at the whole area. If you're gonna annex one portion, annex it all. Let's get it all in here. Not just one little spot, not just one little parcel. Let's get a bigger picture of Chino. Because this is Chino. This is our home. I mean, Norco's done this. Corona's done this. Eastville's even done this. And we're bit and piecing this thing and letting these developers come in and do what they want with our land. It's not right. So I asked, let's do a bigger picture scope of this. Let's take a bigger, broader spectrum of it, because we all deserve it. Not just the developer, not just our neighbors, not just us in the rural up areas. All of us need a bigger look at the whole picture, not just this one spot. So I urge you to annex it all, take a look at it all as one, rather than just piecemealing. Thank you very much for your time.
Kathy Marchese. Kathy, oh.
Good evening. Okay, my name is Kathy Marchese. My husband and I, John, have lived in Chino for about 55 years. His parents had a chicken ranch here. I am reading this evening on behalf of my sister-in-law, who, because of the change of date in this meeting, couldn't be here. This is what she has written regarding the flooding presentation. We have experienced the Yorba River since 1972. Water from south of Mission flows down Monte Vista, across Phillips and Francis to Yorba, where it continues to the flood channel at Yorba and the 60 freeway. In the past, Yorba and Philadelphia would flood so badly cars would stall out in the intersection. What solved this problem was storm drains under Philadelphia when the new development south of Philadelphia was built. Chino Francis Estates will cover 13 acres of dirt that currently does not add to this problem. As evidenced during the rain of 12/4/19, she has taken pictures that are available to show the flooding. But covering 13 acres with concrete, asphalt, and homes will add to it. They say their catchment system will eliminate adding to the current problem. Time will tell. Their system of releasing excess water down Yorba will only cause bogs in the county area of Yorba, where there aren't curbs and gutters but dirt. These bogs will be where residents currently park their cars in front of their homes and set their dumpsters.
You have 1 minute, Kathy.
Okay, this is unique area where city meets county and everything isn't improved adequately or uniformly. Chino Francis Estates' few feet of improvement wouldn't do much to improve or enhance the neighborhood. As the mayor told the preserve residents a couple of months ago about their flooding problems, when everything gets developed, the problems will be solved. I don't want to wait that long for the problem to be resolved, and Chino Francis Estates isn't a solution to our problems. Please adhere to the general plan.
Thank you. Marlo Mole on behalf of Michael Leeming.
Hi, I'm Marlo Mole. I'm actually going to switch and speak on behalf of Kevin Kramer instead. Someone else will be speaking on behalf of Michael Leeming.
Okay.
I just would like to read into the record something he sent me today. He unfortunately couldn't be here because he's out of town on business.
Kevin Kramer?
Kevin Kramer, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Ulloa and esteemed council members. I appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening regarding the Chino Francis Estates proposed residential development. As a landowner and taxpayer for over 15 years in the area being discussed this evening, I fully support the proposal and look forward to your concurrence with the Planning Commission's decision. And I strongly urge you to adopt the resolution before you this evening after 5 years of study and debate. For decades, California has faced an ever-growing and well-documented housing crisis. Along with this housing crisis, communities such as Chino have seen other related issues grow in frequency and severity as well, such as crime, violence, homelessness, and physical as well as mental health concerns. One may wonder if this is related to or influenced by a lack of affordable housing and long commutes to and from work. I would refer you to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all the basic level of which is our physiological needs for air, water, food, and shelter. These needs are followed on the next level by safety needs, including personal security, employment, health, and property. The levels of the hierarchy progress, building on each other to include such concepts as sense of connection, self-esteem, respect, freedom, and ultimately self-actualization. Last summer, an editorial was published in the Chino Champion by Reverend Edmund Gomez from Our Lady of Guadalupe Church here in Chino. He pointed out Chino's local housing struggles so eloquently, I'm sure you read it. The city's own website reports that the average Chino worker's commute is now 34 minutes, up nearly 10% since the last census, indicating that Chino's workforce increasingly cannot afford to live in the city where they work. In order for Chino citizens and families to reach for and attain higher levels of growth, success, personal safety, health, love, respect, strength, and freedom, we must first satisfy the base level needs of Maslow's hierarchy, which include safe, affordable housing.
You have 1 minute, Marlo.
Where the Chino Francis Estates proposal and other similar proposals may not be affordable to all buyers in the housing market, it will allow for growing Chino families to move up to housing choices that are scarce in Chino and the region. These homes will provide family-sized lots with room to play catch in the yard with kids, have swimming pools, etc. These move-up homes will open up currently overcrowded homes for first-time buyers and those looking to downsize into retirement, providing relief for some and opportunity for others. All of this while also meeting the city's fiscal requirements relating to annexations. If the City Council fails to act in its capacity to approve this and similar proposals, if it succumbs to the fear being propagated by those opposed to change, it will face an ever-growing risk of losing its authority over housing to the state. This in turn could lead to this area being forced to accept an even higher density in the near future, as recommended by the Sphere of Influence study. I'm asking you to honor the investment the City of Chino has made in this area through the Sphere of Influence study and to base your decision on the truth, which is told in numbers, not the fear that is being preached. Thank you, and God bless Kevin Kramer.
You made it just in time. That gal can talk quick. Wow. And she didn't even breathe. Carol Vosnick.
Hi, I'm Carol Vosnick. I live on Locust in Chino. I'm here to speak in support of 2 properties per acre. We
Carol,
moved
hang on
here.
a minute. We have a distraction.
Ah.
Okay, it's gone. Sorry.
Okay, I could dance.
You can dance.
Yeah. Listening tonight, I am reminded that there are many definitions of our American dream: a small, tidy property, a bigger property with animals, or not. And that's what and why my family came to Chino. You could go to an apartment, you could go to a small lot, you could go to a half an acre, you could go to an acre, you could go larger if you had the money. We didn't, but that's why we came to Chino, because of all the many choices and the opportunities for ourselves and our kids that we raised here. Once we eliminate those larger properties, that particular option, that particular choice is gone. I think that is one of the unique opportunities that appeals to people who are looking for a place to live, and I would sure hate to lose that choice to newcomers. That's it.
Thank you. Stubby Barr. Is he still here?
He's over here.
Oh. You're not that short. Yes, you are.
Can I
supervisor has my height at 4'3".
You're 4'3"?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, and I hope you feel better.
Okay, you need to speak a little bit more into the microphone.
Is that better?
A little bit.
No? Okay, I'm going to have to turn this down. Okay, I can't hear myself now, so hopefully you can.
Okay.
Is that better?
That's better.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, once again. I am actually relatively neutral on this density issue, so I'm not going to address that. I will remind you, however, though, that the general plan is our biggest policy statement as a city. I think you all know that. At the same time, as has been pointed out tonight, growth is inevitable. And I don't think anyone objects to that. It's control of growth. And I think that's what's on the table with all these people here tonight. My sworn duty, of course, is that all development be accessible. It also, which segues directly into pedestrian access and into quality of life. And one of the major things of quality of life is parks. Council's going to tell you that the site approval is not on the table tonight, but as I mentioned earlier, that is not 100% accurate. So the developer has been notified of this issue. The cul-de-sacs, just like the Ashley Court issue that came up, do not have pedestrian connectors. I read you 2 articles from Chino Municipal Code at the Ashley Court hearing, or actually it wasn't a hearing, it was just a meeting item. There's actually 3, I found another one, that support that they are required. A notified staff, and apparently the developer has verbally approved and agreed to provide the pedestrian access as a dedicated right-of-way, which is required in Chino Municipal Code. That is very important because lack of pedestrian facilities is lack of accessibility. The accessibility issues, and there are several with this project, the way it's designed, especially the intersection of, I think it's B Street, when it intersects Francis, has a large obstacle that it needs to overcome, which isn't included on any of the documentation. Those issues I will solve. You know that I will address them. They are legally required, and they will have no choice but to comply. The issue of the park is this. The issue of private versus public was not presented well by staff. The truth of the matter is all the parks that are required in the preserve and all of the parks that are required in College Park, both of our heavy specific plans, are required to be open, whether they are private or public. They are required to be open to the public. There's a very good specific reason for this. Our municipal code also requires a parking analysis be done for every park. Now, this is an issue that has come up at Community Services Commission several times because planning approves parks, and then the issue comes up, hey, I went out to the park, there's no parking. That is an issue. Whether or not the parks are public or privately owned.
You're out of time.
Oh, whether or not they're privately or publicly owned, they're still maintained by HOAs. That's just the nature of the development today. Thank you.
Thank you.
3 minutes.
Carol Jackson. Oh.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm speaking on behalf of Michael Leeming tonight.
Okay.
I am a neighbor to the project and I support the plans. The new homes will be an asset to the neighborhood. We've waited long enough. The project conforms with the goals and objectives of the general plan. Thank you.
Neil Derry. Boy, you're out of your area.
Not really. I've
Not
worked out
really.
here for
decades. Mayor, council, it's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. My name's Neil Derry. I do not live in Chino, I admit that. I'm a resident of the county. I've been in your shoes, though. I've served on city councils, planning commissions, and on the board of supervisors. So I have been in difficult situations like this many times before. I'm here to tell you, or to remind you, you know very well what's happening in the state legislature. SB 50, which would basically eliminate local control over densities, is now out of committee. I spoke to this issue at the Planning Commission as well, and it had been stuck in committee. It is now out of committee. It's had some modifications. The governor has made housing one of his #1 issues, and he has no fear of taking away local control from local bodies such as yourselves and cities throughout California. This is a mistake, but is the path the state is going down at this point in time. My point is that this project is a low-density project. It meets the guidelines of the general plan, and it meets the goals of the general plan. And it is a low-density project. 3.2 units per acre is low density, and in just about any place I can find. You have the possibility of this project not being developed in the future, or this project does not go through. And according to the Planning Commission, in your study of zoning throughout the city, your consultants have actually recommended 8 units per acre for this very same project site. That was mentioned by your Planning Commission at the Planning Commission hearing where they approved the project. This is a compromise. It is a positive step in the right direction for the city of Chino. It fixes a blighted neighborhood, which is always first on our minds when we're approving projects of this nature. And it is an annexation, which is why it's before the city council. I thank you for your time. I just want to remind you that where the state legislature and the governor have declared, and we do have a housing crisis in California, it's an ongoing housing crisis. And the situation is going to get worse as the state looks to impose its will with higher density projects, particularly in areas similar to this one, which is close to transit, close to major intersections and freeways, close to bus lines. So let's avoid that. This project is a solution to that problem, and it's a good project for the community. Thank you.
Gail.
Mayor and Councilman.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Too short. We've lived on Ramona Avenue, and we're right next to the project. We're on the corner of Francis and Ramona. And because of the blight, I think there needs to be some compromise between landowners. We have a half an acre. But it's a good compromise because they do have RV parking, they have a park, it's a clean area, it's going to clean up the blight. That area has been untouched since we have lived there. And you know, you worry about strawberry fields being rented there and those kinds of things. It hasn't happened. So the developer coming in is going to take care of that, the blight, and make it a beautiful city, and that's what we would like to see, and I'm definitely for the project.
Roger Dale.
Good evening, Mayor Yaloa and members of the council. My name is Roger Dale, and I am the managing principal of the Nadelson Dale Group, which is an economic and financial consulting firm. I have about 32 years of experience preparing fiscal impact studies for development projects and have worked for most of the cities here in the Inland Empire. Our firm prepared the fiscal impact analysis for this project that you're considering this evening, and based on what we believe are conservative assumptions, our study concludes that the project would have a positive fiscal impact on the city. We have also carefully reviewed the draft fiscal analysis prepared by another firm that was done for the city for the sphere of influence, or SOI, area. And based on the SOI study, we believe some very clear messages emerge from those findings. Basically, out of the three ways that the city could potentially approach future annexations, that study concludes that the status quo scenario would be the most favorable fiscally to the city. And by that, they mean the process that you have now, which is where you consider individual development projects based on their own merits on a case-by-case basis. And under that option, the city would begin to generate positive fiscal benefits from annexations as soon as new development happens. In contrast, the study concludes that if you considered an annexation scenario where the whole SOI would be annexed at one time, especially under the existing general plan land uses, which are dominated by RD2 zoning, the city would incur fiscal deficits for many, many years to come. In fact, the city would not break even on annexations until sometime after 2070, so 50 years. The basic reason for these conclusions is that annexing existing or older development is a very different issue from annexing projects where there will be new development. And especially when you're looking at areas where you're having larger half-acre lots that are not consistent with where there is currently market demand. New development tends to have much higher property values and therefore tends to have a positive impact on the annexing jurisdiction. In the end, both our study and the SOI study conclude that this project would have a positive fiscal impact on the city. And I should mention that that study prepared by a totally different firm had different assumptions from ours in the way it calculated fiscal impacts. And it really underscores how conservative our numbers were. When we went and
You're out of time,
recalculated
Mr. Dale.
our analysis based on those factors, it was actually a much more positive project. Be glad to answer any questions either now or later this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Sorensen.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
You can pull that up, Gary.
Is that better?
That's
Oh,
better.
yeah. Well, good evening. I live in that area, and I have been over there for the last 24 years. And every time I go down Francis, actually from Central West, it's kind of disappointing. When I go I live right off just a block east of Yorba. And when I'm going to the north or northwest, like Pomona or wherever, and I go down that street and I see the blight there, and it's really sad. So for me, any kind of project that would go in there that would provide housing or improve it would be a very positive thing. And it would be great for the entire neighborhood. Thank you.
Larry Walker.
Sorry, I've done something with my stopwatch. But Madam Mayor, members of the council, good evening. I apologize for my voice. I hope to remind you all of what is at stake this evening. The Chino City Council action tonight will set a precedent, as the council does in every action it takes. You will demonstrate your policy regarding increasing the residential density of the Chino General Plan, as you do each time a request for increase in that density is considered. You set a precedent when you increased the residential density of the project north of Chino Avenue between Norton and Pipeline. That was a couple of years ago. You set a precedent when you increased the residential density of Pipeline at the railroad tracks. You also set a precedent when you increased the density of a North Chino neighborhood from 1 unit per acre to 6 units per acre. Then the voters set a precedent by vetoing the council action by a margin of 85 to 15%. And Mr. Kramer, the owner of Francis Crossings, is counting on you to set a precedent tonight that will support his project in his application in a few months. But when I say you, I refer to the Chino City Council as a group, as an entity. Actually, 2 members of the council were elected just over a year ago and did not participate in those previous actions. And one of you has opposed all or most of those actions as they've occurred. Tonight's City Council has an opportunity to set a new precedent and to state that we will not grant an increase in general plan density just because a developer files an application. You will hear many proposed, or you have heard, many justifications for this project, all of them somewhat misleading. It's been said it's a well-designed project. I hope the City of Chino standard for every development in every part of the city is to be a well-designed project. I hope that's a high standard that this city holds in every portion of this community, no matter what the density is. This tract will solve flooding in Yorba, some say. The only flooding this tract will account for is the extra that has already been referenced previously tonight. The Yorba floods dramatically almost every year now, and there's not anything in this project that will have any impact on the existing levels of flooding on that street, and to assert otherwise is extremely misleading. Developer says this project is not growth-inducing and will not lead to further development of the sphere of influence, the 2 unit per acre area, and yet later in his presentation he points out that this area needs to be the major capacity for RHNA. I don't think anyone up there agrees with that. And I want to talk about fear for a minute. There's been a lot of talk about fear around here, but the only fear that's been asserted tonight is the fear of state bureaucrats, and the legislation that was referred to doesn't have a clause in there that says if this project gets approved, then we won't do it. So I just hope you'll think about that, and we would encourage you to oppose this project.
Larry, you're out of time. Sorry. George Gonzalez on Ramona Avenue.
I'm George Gonzalez.
Pull it down, please.
Yeah, I'm George Gonzalez's wife. We have lived on Ramona since 1993. We actually have 2 properties there, a 2/3 acre and 1.2. We are the ones that have the livestock, and we've had livestock since I moved in. That was why we bought our property. I know it's been spoken many times about, the effect of housing right next to livestock, and so I won't spend a lot of time on that. My concern is, okay, our properties have small houses, they're old houses, 100-year-old houses, big properties. The value of those properties is in the land and what you can do with it. And in our area, we have livestock, there's trucks parked, we have trucks on our other property. If there's nice fancy houses behind us, it's not going to be very long before they say, we don't like how this looks. This is blight. And when we turn to sell our house, how are we supposed to sell a property that has a tiny old house, but it has sheds and barns and corrals if they can't put any animals in them, because by that time it's considered blight? And that I do respect people that live in nice fancy houses and nice fancy yards, but in our area, we've all had a live and let live attitude. Everybody takes care of their property how they want. They do what they want with their properties, and that's a freedom that you can't have when every house looks the same and you're in an HOA. And, I know progress is going to happen however it's going to happen, but I feel really sad because, our lifestyle is just as important as the lifestyle of people that all want to live the same way. And I do respect that opinion as well, but it hurts. And I think our property is going to go down in value, not up. I don't know how we would ever sell it if we were going to move, because what is somebody new going to do with that when it's not a fancy house with a fancy yard and, you know, a park? I mean, it's just, this is how we see it, and it's sad to see the freedom that we have
1 minute.
anyway. I'm pretty much done, but yeah, it's just sad because I feel like, you know, we're collateral damage in all of this, and we don't have any recourse. And I'd love somebody to be able to show the difference in value of our house a couple of years from now. If this project or any project goes in there, our value is going to go down, and I'm going to be the one, and my husband's going to be the one that's going to lose out on that. Yeah.
Okay,
So
thank you.
That's about it. Thank you.
It's either Maria or Mario Barbosa. I think it's Mario.
Good evening, Councilmember Lucio, Mr. Hahi, Mr. Hargrove, and Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you so much. And Mayor Yola. Thank you for giving us your ear. My name is Mario Barbosa, and I live on Yorba Avenue, and I share the northern property line with the proposed project. My family and I have resided at the same residence for 30 years. There are several issues with this property. Excuse me. One problem is that Yorba is a narrow rural street, and Francis acts as a break for all the traffic, and it's a natural safe boundary divide. One can try tonight and paint a picture of this project in many ways. We ask the council to use wisdom and discernment to weed out any fake news. This project of 39 homes is a square block trying to be forced into a round hole, which is the Chino general plan, and it does not fit. As our city motto states, Chino, where everything grows. This project is a garden with no water. Tonight, council members, may you use your power and your position.
You have 1 minute.
To stand for truth and vote no. That is all.
Jean Barbosa.
Good evening. Thank you for being so patient with all of this. And I'd like to first commend you guys for governing over probably what I think is probably the best city in the Inland Empire by far. I've been here for 30 years. My kids grew up here. They went to Chino High. We've been through everything
Jean,
here.
speak more into the microphone.
We really love this city, and with that being said, I too, that was my son, I too occupy a house on the northern border, 800 feet of congruent border with the project. And there's a couple safety concerns that I have. One is the width of Yorba Avenue from Francis to Phillips is 26 feet. A normal lane width is 12 feet, and 2 lanes makes 24 feet, which means that 2 cars can barely pass each other on Yorba Avenue. It is not a safe street by any means. There's no traffic control, no stop signs, no anything on Yorba between Francis and Phillips. The San Bernardino County boundary is Francis, and that is what I would consider to be an appropriate safe boundary divide for the county and the city. If this boundary is moved north on Yorba Avenue approximately 650 feet, that would include widening the street up at that 650 square feet, 50 feet up the road, and that would constitute a divide that is unsafe, non-conforming, non-congruent, and non-conducive with the rural nature of Yorba Avenue. This boundary would create an unsafe reduction in the width of the street immediately north of the project. In fact, all of the north, south, east, west surrounding streets in the county area are narrow and not able to safely carry the amount of traffic that this project would cause. Yorba Avenue between Francis and Phillips is a narrow rural street in the heart of an area with no tract homes within a 1 square mile boundary of unincorporated area, bordering on Telephone East, Francis on the south, Phillips on the north, and Ramona on the west. This project should not be annexed into the city of Chino.
You have 1 minute.
Annexation would create an anomaly in and a hardship to the surrounding unincorporated county area. If this project is to go forward, it should be built as it was intended to be built, according to the general plan of the County of San Bernardino, in order to preserve the rural atmosphere and accommodate the existing infrastructure. Thank you guys for this late night.
Tom Brezid? Tom Brezid? Is it Brezid? On Kimball? This is so strange. Yeah, here he, nope. Is he not here? Must have left, okay. Good grief, it's getting worse. Augustine, oh, okay. What is it? Zendejas? Wow, okay. Augustine Zendejas. Would not have read that.
Good evening, my name is Agustin Zendejas, and I live nearby on Monte Vista and Phillips, and I support the project.
Okay, thank you. Tracy Duran.
Mayor, council members, I live on La Mesita Court. I've lived there for 30 years, and I am in total support of this project. I hope that you guys all do the right thing by voting yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Jean Ackerman.
Hello, I am another neighbor who lives on Lacazzi Court, and I just want to point out that I think all of us who are stating that we live on La Mesita or Lacazzi Court are in favor of it because it directly affects us. I'm not hearing those opposing it stating that they live in close proximity to this blighted area. So it really does affect our day-to-day life. One of the last speakers, I think her name was Carol, said that we should give people in Chino the choice of living in what type of homes they want. I agree, and I think we definitely need ranch-style homes. My husband and I moved here 4 years ago from Chino Hills, and we moved here specifically to get a ranch-style home. And I've absolutely no doubt in my mind that there is a need in this city for homes like this and a beautiful development like this. I also want to mention how incredible BORSTEIN has been. They have talked to us, taken into account everything we've said. We wanted ranch-style homes. They've been respectful to us, and I find it aggravating that the people against this do nothing but accuse them of being liars and thieves. They've accused me of being on their payroll because I supported on social media, and it's actually pretty disturbing. Yes, they're trying to make money. They're a business, but they have done nothing but treat us with respect, and they also aren't trying to get this by the city. It's been a long process for them, and they have done everything by the book or they wouldn't be here. So just some of the comments are rather disturbing. The accusations. We all live in Chino. We all want what's best for Chino. So I hope that you really take into account what the people who live right there are saying. I also want to take a moment to thank Paul Rodriguez for meeting with us, listening to our needs and our concerns. You're our councilman, and we really appreciate that because this is our area. And I hope you'll all do the right thing and vote this project through.
Okay, those are all the written requests to speak that I have. Now, out of respect for time, and I've had a request from Councilman Howie to have a quick break, is there anyone else that has anything new to add? Yes, sir.
My name's Larry Dalma. I live on Lacasi Court. We're not all for it. A couple points I'd like to bring up. They showed a map of the city of Chino. How many people live in Chino, Madam Mayor? 80,000?
About 82,000.
About 82,000. They got 600 for it. That's not a very good number. They're claiming 2/3 of them are going to have RV parking. They have a 20-foot driveway on half of them. Do you think you can park an RV in a 15-foot gap with a 20-foot driveway? It isn't going to happen. They're all for the money. 2 years ago, Mr. BORSTEIN said he didn't like what I was saying about them selling it. He turned his head and walked away when I asked him what the investors would do if he didn't sell it for the $4 million they would make doing that. One other thing. Is your yes vote considered your signature on a policy that you guys vote on?
I don't know. Let's ask the attorney.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I'd like to read a resolution of the City Council of City of Chino, California, resolution number 2018-009. And section 1 says the City of Chino will only allow new and existing developments on parcels within the city's sphere of influence connect to the city's sanitary sewer system if A, the parcel is first annexed into the city, and B, the parcel is developed in accordance with the city's general plan provisions applicable to the affected area and in conformance with all other federal, state, and local laws. Voted yes by Council members Ulloa, Howie, Elrod, George, and Rodriguez.
Mr. Galante.
I believe.
Excuse me, please allow him to answer.
I believe that just pertained to the obligation to proceed with annexation if the particular applicant wanted to connect to the sewer line of the city. So that was just a condition very specific to that. I could probably defer to your development staff on that, but I don't believe that's a policy statement on annexation of projects of this type.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to bring up anything? Yes, ma'am.
Hello. I just would like to say that I live
Can
right
I have
next.
your name, please?
Melissa?
Melissa?
Yes. I live right next door to the right of the property. I have lived in Chino my entire life and would like to invest in Chino in my future. I strongly disagree with those that say we are afraid of change. We do want change and improvement. We can light up the streets more and clean up the community. I believe this is all still possible. I don't think this is our only option and or best plan in improving the area. I do believe houses should be built, but we should keep the RD2 zoning. It has already been stated that traffic will increase, will also affect our environment in the future. We are able to change just now with this project. I do not support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. And the applicant has a right for a 5-minute rebuttal.
Opponents argue that the development will create too much traffic, infrastructure is insufficient, the schools don't have enough room, the renderings are fake, animal keeping will be threatened, the general plan should never change, and the project will be growth-inducing. None of these things are true. For traffic, there's no significant traffic impact on the area. It'll be one car every 2 minutes in the morning and one car every minute and a half in the PM. And this was studied by an independent traffic engineer and reviewed by the city. For infrastructure, water, sewer, power, and traffic have all been studied by independent consultants, and there's more than enough capacity for this project. Drainage is a problem on Yorba. People are absolutely right, but the project's designed to reduce the amount of water coming off the site by about 20% and improve water quality. Bottom line is that we're drastically improving local infrastructure with our project and for the broader community. For ADA, yes, it's important, and yes, we're compliant. But how can you ask for something that's ADA compliant and have an area with no sidewalks and no street walks, no accessibility ramps? Schools, there's excess capacity in all 3 schools, and they need students to fund teacher salaries. Marshall Elementary and Ramona are just over half capacity, and this is a real budgetary problem. The renderings, yes, so the actual renderings with our actual color codes, our materials, everything. It's a program called Lumion, and it's more realistic than anything people have ever seen before, and it's a new program. Animal keeping, there's only one property directly adjacent to our property that actually has animal keeping, and to be respectful, we increased our setback by 20 feet from that property owner. Profitability, it's argued that half-acre lots would generate a profit on the site, but to make a profit, the homes would have to sell for over $1.2 million given the fixed infrastructure cost. And according to Redfin data within the last 12 months, only 9 homes in the city have sold for more than $900,000, the highest being $1.14 million. 88% of the city listings are below our average lot size. And annexation is not growth-inducing since it only includes this site, and the proposal creates a buffer with larger lots over 12,000 feet to the north and west. This sets a precedent for slow growth. Lastly, the general plan. Those who say the general plan designation should never change don't take into consideration the purpose of an actual general plan document. It's designed to be flexible to accomplish goals, objectives, and policies laid out by the city and its residents. In today's environment, the general plan designation for just this property does not reflect those goals and policies. If the city is to produce 6,500 units by 2029, there's not enough undeveloped residentially zoned land in the city and in the city's sphere. The existing general plan does not allow Chino to come anywhere close to meeting this requirement, and relying 90% on the preserve in College Park is no longer a viable strategy. Nor is it equitable to residents in northern Chino who want a variety of product, pricing, manageable water-efficient lots, and energy-efficient homes for them to have to move to southern Chino to get those things. The ability of future generations of existing Chino residents to live close to their families and have attainable price points for housing should not just be something offered in southern Chino. And the area of northern Chino has been left behind, and this is a unique community that will transform the neighborhood. The project's consistent with the general plan and the goals and policies of it, and your housing and land use element, and meets all the qualifications for a general plan amendment. We've made substantial changes over the last 3 years, and you can't find 100% single-story projects anywhere in the area with yards of this size. And even the opposition concedes that this is an attractive project that would greatly improve the streetscape. But they are afraid of change and the potential this could lead to more change. Yet this is a stand-alone project, and any other annexation would have to go through this whole process all over again. But this project sets a precedent for single-story homes and enlarging lots as you move north and west. And that's a key component of this. We ask that you look at this project through the lens of, does this improve the neighborhood? What we've shown you hopefully shows you yes. Does it transform an area of the city that's been left behind? Does it allow Chino to grow responsibly with a fiscal surplus rather than grow at a deficit if the zoning isn't changed? The recommendation of the Planning Commission to support the support from the immediate neighbors of 663 individual supporters echoes this opinion, and that compares to only about 351 signatures from the opposition when you eliminate duplicate signatures. We hope we believe this is a low-density project, an example of sensible growth, and hopefully can be used as a model for building low-density, single-story projects and help the city achieve its housing goals. We respectfully ask for your approval and approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing now and turn it over to council comments. Comments or questions? We'll start with Mr. Lucio.
Okay, this question is for the builder. It was brought up that that you're the developer but not going to be the builder. Can you address that? Who is going to build these homes if this project is approved?
Madam Mayor.
Hang on just a minute. Fred, do I have to reopen
Yes.
the public hearing for
Yes.
questions?
That's what I was going to
Okay,
suggest.
I will reopen the public hearing so the developer can answer the question.
So we've been in business since 1980. We've developed or financed over 140 residential projects. We have different developers that we've worked with. At this point, a builder has not been selected, but it's our intention to move forward with building the project. We also don't get financing from outside parties, so there's no outside investors that are asking us to sell the property. That's not our intention. The intention is to build out the project. But at this point, no developer has been selected. We have worked with a developer that's reviewed some of the floor plans and given us feedback, but nobody's been selected at this point.
Okay, hang on just a minute, Mark.
And to further answer that question, yes, we have developed, I think 6,000 or 7,000 homes over the years, but have been less involved in vertical construction over the last 15.
Okay, in light of the fact that I had to reopen the public hearing, are there any other questions for the developer at this time? No, not from the audience, from the council. Okay, then I'll close the public hearing again. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, this is for city staff. We've heard a couple different things on the sphere of influence. It's amazing that some of these individuals have seen it, and we've yet to see it ourselves here on the council. So I've heard that this area, according to the sphere of influence study, is going to remain in R2 zoning. And then I've heard from somebody else that now that it's really designated as an R8. What is the sphere of influence study showing?
The sphere study actually doesn't show anything. It's a fiscal analysis. And so there are assumptions under the study depending upon a range of policy options that the council could choose if they were to decide to annex all or a portion of the sphere, and then what the land use plan for that may look like. And those are all the way from annex piece by piece, looking at individual developments as they come in, to annexing the islands first and trying that on for size, to annexing the whole sphere and leaving the existing general plan land use designations in place, to annexing the whole sphere and adopting new land use designations or change designations to allow for development, depending upon where the council wants to go fiscally with the impact of providing services to that area. So we were very careful when we were crafting this study to make sure that it wasn't a land use plan, that it didn't assign plans or development designs for any particular area, but it's intended to show a spectrum of possibilities, what it could look like fiscally to the city if we were to allow more intense development, leave it the same, or take it piece by piece. So that's what the sphere study looks like in a nutshell. So I just saved you about 3 hours of workshop time in March, but that's it in a nutshell.
So if we were to annex piece by piece, is that what they're talking about as far as an R2 rating? And if we were to annex the whole thing because it's not going to be cost effective to the city. Is that what they're talking about being in R8? Because we would have to build more to be able to offset the costs of the city.
So annexing it piece by piece, that's kind of what we call the status quo. That's what the city has been doing. And that is the potentially it's the most fiscally advantageous, because all you're doing is looking at each development on each lot. Now, with this particular development as it's proposed, it shows an increase of density. And that gets us to a place where it's fiscally plus, fiscally neutral. It hovers right in that territory, but it involves a change in density. So the status quo doesn't necessarily mean that the existing general plan would stay the same. It just means that the council's only going to look at it on a piece-by-piece basis. The kind of on the other end of the spectrum is looking at how the city could create more property value to increase revenues to offset expenditures from providing services. So that's kind of the totally other end of the spectrum, where we'd say what kind of additional infrastructure needs to be installed and what kind of land use increases or density increases would be necessary on what parcels to generate revenue in order to offset the costs of service. And so that's kind of more on the 8 units per acre, if you will, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the whole sphere would be adopted that. Within that range, there's 100 or more different policy decisions the council would have to make concerning the future of the sphere. So they're scenarios that were developed to give the council a picture of what it could look like. But that doesn't mean that one scenario is better than the other. It's just a picture of what it could look like. And like I said, there's 100 policy decisions that the council can make anywhere within that spectrum to determine what happens from a fiscal impact side to the city.
Mark, we went through that on the East Side specific plan. I don't believe you were with us at the time, Nick, but we annexed a big territory that was in the county on the east side, which is west of Euclid. And we went through the same kind of study. What land use was appropriate where? How would the infrastructure be financed? Where shopping would be, where large properties would be, small properties. And it turned out to be a beautiful, beautiful complex over in that area. But, that's all council policy that decides that.
Okay, I have nothing else.
Okay, Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, after 2 years, here we are again, just about seeing most of the same people come up and speak. And I want to thank all of you coming out and voicing your feelings about this project. Talking about money, I think first I always look at a project to see if it's going to pencil out. Is it going to cost the city and the rest of the residents money, or is it going to pay for itself? The city has told me that it's probably not going to cost the city money, and that's always a good thing from that standpoint. Also, if you put in more residents, they're obviously going to shop in our city. We're going to get tax revenue from that too. I don't really know how much the dollars would be, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a negative situation. Let's see. As far as the Protect Chino people, I want to say I never formally congratulated you on 2.5, 3 years ago when Measure H was voted down, but that was a huge change from 1 acre to almost 1 per acre to almost 7 per acre, and that pretty much has knocked out or killed our Measure M projects. We haven't seen anything in the last 2.5 or 3 years regarding Measure M. Flooding, the situation of flooding, I would like to ask Nick regarding the flooding issue. I didn't see anything from the city that said it was going to adversely affect us. Can you give me a quick comment on the flooding issue as far as this project goes?
Well, in the area, especially to the north of the project site, there are no curbs or gutters in the streets, and curbs and gutters account for a significant feature to control stormwater. And so there is general flooding and general stormwater runoff in the area because there aren't curbs and gutters, and there is not storm drain infrastructure either. This project would be required to mitigate its runoff so as to not impact downstream properties, but it also would not be extending infrastructure farther north to accommodate the existing stormwater flows.
Okay. Let's see here. Well, from what everybody seems to actually like this project, as far as the makeup and the look of the whole project, and improving the area is always something that's important to everybody. If this was going to remain R2, it would be 26 homes. The developer has knocked it down to 39, so we're basically talking about, I have to make a decision based on what do I think 13 additional homes are going to do than if it was 26 homes. So, I'm taking that into consideration. Also, the Planning Commission did approve this project, even though it was a close vote. The last couple of the Planning Commission did not approve that we did. The City Council did overturn the Meritage project a couple of years ago down on Norton. I had a chance to go take a look at those houses. I do know 4 people that are pretty happy over there buying those houses. And I do know that the biggest seller there, the most property that's generating, is single stories. They basically told me, hey, if these were all single stories, we would have no problem selling them all. So this council, for the last many years, I can't remember, has always been interested in single-story homes. Well, obviously, I'm getting older, so those stairs are kind of killing me now, but I mean, it wasn't just that. I mean, there is a need for single-story homes. There's no question about that. Also, precedent setting. Are we setting a precedent? I think it's important that since it's not Measure M and since the people can't vote for this is a city council decision, you have to look at each individual project on its own merits. How is the project going to benefit the city? Is it going to benefit the city or be a negative? And I think it's important that I think every project will have to be looked at individually as far as setting a precedent. I mean, the last project that when we overturned the Planning Commission's decision has worked out pretty well. And in this case, however it goes, whether it goes yes or no, I think the City Council has an obligation to look at each individual project on its own merit. So I mean, you can look at, you're basically looking here at improving an area, but you're taking out an animal situation and larger lots. Okay. So when I moved to Chino, I was in a 4.5 right across from Don Lugo on a 7,000 square foot lot. And I was fortunate to save enough money and sell that house and buy a half acre. I now live on an R2 half acre for the last 30 years. And as far as horses, and we have 10 homes, and in 30 years we've never had one horse in our neighborhood. Nobody's, there's just not a whole lot of horses, but animals, there's other animals also. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling on here, so I just want to say thank you all for coming out and giving you and speaking and sharing your opinions. Okay, that's all.
Mark.
Okay, if you'll all bear with me, I feel like my brain is like Swiss cheese from all that I've taken in. I will say that this is very interesting for me. I mean, I followed this before I was on the council. Obviously, it came before. And I can honestly say that, well, first of all, thank you all for coming out and giving your, opposition or your support of the project. I'll honestly tell you that I spent some sleepless nights going over to reading all this. I think it was like a 1,200-page agenda at some point, and all that's come before. And so there's so many great things about the project in terms of what the project looks like and the housing and single story, and I know Chino has pushed for that for a long time, and then you have other elements that are just really concerning to me. Something that comes up is I've carried this with me since the day I was elected and the day they swore me in, and I always made this sure that it was a reminder to me every time I come to a council meeting that this is the city organizational chart. And I always remember that my boss is the city citizens, so citizens of Chino are my boss. I've made this clear from the time that I ran for council. I walked my district extensively, almost tried to knock on almost every door I could. And this project was on the forefront at the time. I talked to people and I made a commitment at that time. And I've since followed through with that I am not in agreement with changing the general plan when it comes to residential density and increasing it. I think that the general plan back in '81 was there, and then they started it again like 2008 and finished it in 2010. Now it's a 10-year-old document. It's due to come up in probably another 2 years, 3 years. We'll start looking at updating it. I think we asked for residents' input into that plan, and I think it's concerning to me that anytime somebody wants to change it, they just come and present to the 5 people on the dais, whoever they are at the time, and say, hey, can you change this for us? Even though we had input from all the residents, had an opportunity to just say, and as it stands now, we have a general plan, and it's designated this area as an RD2. I think residents that move into that area and look at buying a home, whether it's Lakazi or La Mesita or Yorba, if they're like me, they want to look and see where am I moving to and what's going to be around me. And if they buy that house and a year later somebody comes along and says, hey, we'd like the council to change this, it affects them just as well. I will tell you that I've looked at every submittal of an email, every submittal of a mailer, every submittal of a letter. I think it's pretty evenly split down the middle. I will say that I believe that there are more residents in the northern area that oppose this than those, but I do believe that those that are greatly affected, La Mesita, La Casa, those around there, I think they're in more support of it. So it's really kind of a crazy balance for me to look at and say, you know, what's in the best interest. I do want to go back to that question for staff. Probably the city attorney may answer this best because maybe he'll just give me a yes or no. Nick's really good at explaining things, but I'm kind of looking for a yes or no on this one. But
You don't want his long explanation?
Well, hey, sometimes I appreciate those long explanations, but really what this comes down to is what I want to know is this. So let's say it's approved tonight, it's annexed in, it's 4.5 as the new residential density. There's different scenarios to this that could be a year from now, they haven't developed it, they come and say, we're not going to extend this, we're not asking for an extension, or let's say the BORSTEIN Enterprises looks at selling the property and a new buyer comes in. The land has already been annexed in. It's already 4.5 designation. Could a new buyer submit a new application under the 4.5 designation and ask for whatever that would, 50 homes or whatever it could be? And as long as they were in compliance with all the city regulations, all the city ordinances, could they present that to the council to be approved? And legally, would we have the abilities to say no, that project couldn't go through because we had already approved it under this 39? I hope I explained what my point I'm trying to make.
I'm just impressed you asked a lawyer for a simple yes or no question. So
I didn't think you want to get too tangled up. But
so the short answer is what the council's approving tonight are the legislative changes. So you're right, it's the 4.5 density. All of the entitlement documents that went to the Planning Commission and were approved by the Planning Commission would go out the window, right? The applicant would have to come back, or the new buyer, whoever, in your scenario, I believe it was a new buyer, would have to come in and meet all of the standards to secure approval under the tentative tract, map. There was a conditional use permit. And the planning commission at the time would have to make those findings. Do they negatively impact surrounding properties? And you'd have a brand new environmental impact, probably not environmental impact study, but maybe a mitigated negative declaration or whatever the CEQA document would be. And that informs the decision makers. Does this higher density that is now being proposed, throwing away all the current entitlements, does that have a negative impact, a significant impact on the environment? So the commission at the time retains all of that discretion. Granted, the general plan has changed, so the consistency with the general plan is one finding they won't have to make. So that's a true statement. But they still have a new environmental document and findings that they need to make to support whatever the entitlement documents are.
Okay, so I do want to qualify that I don't believe that that's probably the intention of BORSTEIN. I have met with them on several occasions, at least one in person, if not two, and I did have an opportunity. I wanted to say that I spoke with them, I think, last Friday on the phone, and they were reached out to me to see if there's just anything else that I had any questions about. It wasn't influential in any terms. They just seemed to reach out and say they wanted. So I do appreciate all that you put into this. The other thing I'll say is kudos to the city staff. I don't know how you guys, I guess maybe you get paid to do this stuff, but I'm not sure you're getting paid enough to do this stuff, so we'll leave it at that. But because this has been a long haul. I was prepared to speak quite a bit about the general plan, but I'm just going to tell you that out of all the documents I've read, my interpretation of the general plan and some of the contentions that were brought up in terms of the BORSTEIN Enterprises, I don't interpret what they're saying in terms of what they printed on their website site and saying that this is flexible, and I think it is flexible. I think it's flexible every time the city presents it to the residents and says, hey, do you want to make a change to this? Again, I'm kind of stuck on that. I believe that it shouldn't just be coming to the council to make that decision, although I understand they have the authority to do that. I understand they have the abilities to do that, and maybe in some cases it may be appropriate. But for me, changing the general plan without involving all of the city residents and at the time that it's amended is the most appropriate time to do that. Also, I know there was a couple residents that came up and spoke, and I believe that I wrote down their names, but looking at the general plan when they talk about zoning changes, and it states right in there basically that there are reasons that we can do these things. I don't think that this falls under any of those reasons. And I'll just leave it at that. I'll tuck away my other 15 pages that I can read you all the reasons I believe that. But for those reasons, for me, I'm not going to be supporting going forward with making this change myself. So that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Well, I want to start off with thanking everyone on both sides that have spoken tonight, and I've spoken to many of my neighbors on both sides. And I want to start off with this idea. The only plan that I understand that has never changed, and it's written in stone, are the 10 Commandments. A decade has gone by, and flexibility is good, because change is not a threat. It's an opportunity for positive improvement for the future. Survival is not the goal. We need to look forward to what we are facing with our RENA numbers. And I have a question to the staff. Nick, what does RENA stand for?
The Regional Housing Needs Allocation.
Can you give us a small definition of what it's for?
So there's a huge body of state law that mandates that cities have a component of the general plan called the housing element. The housing element needs to be updated every 8 years. There's a process through which local councils of government, so we're in the Southern California Association of Governments, so 6-county region, allocates unit numbers, which is a future need that is determined by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. They give a portion to the Council of Government, and then that Council of Government goes through a process to break that up amongst all of the incorporated cities and unincorporated county areas in the whole 6-county region. So that's what RENA is. The city has to have a plan in its general plan. It has the housing element part of the general plan to show how those numbers of homes can be accommodated over that 8-year period.
In your opinion, when you see the picture, is California under a housing crisis, according to SCAG?
Well, according to SCAG, yes.
What about nationally?
I'm not sure I follow the national numbers too much. I mainly focus on state of California.
I have. I'm part of SCAG, the Southern California Association for Governments. And for the last year and a half, I've been going to LA once a month, sitting on the meetings, listening to the methodology that was just recently passed. And right now, at this time, if I'm correct, Nick, cities can appeal, and they have until October of this year. Is that correct?
Yes, there is an appeal process for the allocation.
In fact, cities like Huntington Beach have been sued, and they are now working with the state to not be sued. Is it true, and what I've heard is that a city, depending on the size, can be sued anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000 a month?
Yes, there are monetary penalties in state law currently that is just adopted as part of the housing pact, the previous legislature's housing package signed into law by the governor, that would impose monetary penalties on cities that are not in compliance with the state housing element law.
I would think that's pretty serious. It's not a threat because under AB 101, isn't that a law at this time?
Yes, it's currently a law.
Are we as council persons obligated to follow the law?
Correct. And the city currently has a certified housing element. The housing element, the 8-year period will conclude next year in 2021. And the city is about to embark on updating its housing element for the next cycle.
This question is for our city manager. Having spoken to you last week, I'm not putting you on the spot, man. Just a real simple question. Yes or no? That's good enough. We have to build, according to RENA, about 6,500 dwellings, correct?
We have to make a good faith effort to build 6,500 homes.
Okay. Good faith answer. Okay. I think what you and I discussed was the idea that we first have to look at the land to start thinking about to make a good faith effort. So, but that's still that sword is still dangling over our heads. So we better start looking really quick, because as was mentioned by Neil, I believe it's SB or AB 50 is now may move forward. And what does that entail, Matt? Do you understand that, or does Nick? Can you explain that?
I've read the law and I don't fully comprehend it. It's very, very complex.
Well,
but at its route is essentially that the state legislature is trying to prevent cities from having zoning that is exclusively single-family. And the way that the bill has been redrafted would require cities to prepare a plan for over a 2-year period to implement those restrictions by allowing for higher density infill development in what are called opportunity zones. So those would be areas that are adjacent to transit and jobs.
Correct. According to SCAG, our traffic's going to get a lot more denser. And I'm telling you now that this project is not the cause of that. It's because more people are coming to SoCal. I mean, besides the weather today, we're living in a really nice place. So if we're obligated to follow the law, and we look at Bill 50, this project could possibly have anywhere from 10 to 12 homes built on an acre. Is that a possibility, if you see the picture?
Yeah, the county has to go through their own process. Yeah. So, because this lot is in unincorporated county area, they have jurisdiction over land use currently, so they would have to go through that process and determine through the same process the city does, going through sites inventory and then looking for consistency and doing that analysis.
Okay, well said. Let me start from the beginning. I have spoken to and listened to my neighbors on both sides for over 2.5 years. I am a generational individual who's lived in Chino, with my father settling here in 1904. My colleague, Mark Hargrove, is also a generational member of Chino. In fact, even at one time where he lived, that was considered dairy and agricultural. I remember the Barclays had a dairy there, where you have that new Home Depot on Euclid and Riverside. I remember a beautiful home that was there. I would always pass it coming home, with cows all over the place. And now look at it. The Spectrum. We had farms there. We had sheep sitting there. Are we going to revert it and put it back to farmland? What about Don Lugo? Don Lugo was the Preciado dairy. Across the street was another dairy, part of that dairy. There was no Ramona High School or junior high. That was farm. The corner getting off going east on the 60, getting off of Ramona. If you go to the south, right there in that corner, that new area where all those homes are, there's 2 little old ladies that had a chicken ranch there. Now you have homes. I guess what I'm saying is, take a look at the original boundaries of Chino. Under HUD, Federal Housing Act Authority, we've accommodated people to come to Chino, and that is one of our greatest components. People want to live in Chino where everything grows and where people get along. My own neighborhood, my lot is 7,500. And what's that saying? A person's home is their castle. One story is good. Francis is a good place. I pass it all the time. And I've seen, even before Cowsey was built, that area, the floods were horrible. With the development, we will have a beautiful area that will be taken in as a part of the city. We can't take everything in, according to the SOI. We'd go bankrupt. We owe money then for the next 50 years. That's insane. Well before, I won't be around. Hopefully I'll be up there with the angels singing and dancing if I'm lucky to get up there. Or maybe all of us. But I'll make this last statement. I have spoken and listened to many of my neighbors on both sides for over 2.5 years. My neighbors are overwhelmingly in favor of the Francis Estate development. Simply said, the Francis Estates meets the needs for the area. I'm going to vote yes for this project. I'm going to vote yes for 2 reasons. The first one would be this. This project is a better use of the property than it is right now. Yes, you guys forgot to mention not only the chicken pens, rabbits, but chinchillas from the South America. They used to grow them there. I remember. Now what do we have? And the second reason would be this. This property is low density. Come on. Give me a break. 10,000 square foot lots to 12. How many tomato plants do you want to grow in your backyard? Who wants to own an RV? I don't have one. My lot's too small. Now, think back. We saw the PowerPoint. Think back in your minds, all of us. We saw a picture of the development as it sits now. Rabbit holes, gopher holes, dead trees. It's an eyeful. It's an eyeful. Now, think of the development, what we were shown by BORSTEIN. What do you see? Curb and gutter, lighting, a park. That will definitely have to be ADA. And we'll work with that. That's easily fixed. As a proponent for special ed, yes, everyone would be able to use it. Liberty Park is a community park. There's not a whole lot of mischief up there. People are playing basketball. People are walking their dogs. Well, at least my wife is walking our dog. It's a beautiful aesthetic area that can be brought into the city as a beginning for transformational change, an opportunity for positive improvements. I call them OPIs, not the one from Andy Griffith, but an OPI, OPIS, opportunities for positive improvement. We heard some people talk about change. Well, the minute we wake up in the morning, we have change. I don't know about you guys. First thing I do, I get up, get dressed, run to the newspaper, and make sure my name isn't listed on the obituary. That means I'm still around for another day of change. Now, when we think about this, the graft, I've mentioned already the density. That is not dense. Not at all. So for that reason, I will be supporting and I will be voting yes, because it is better use of the land and it is low density. We don't want the state to be coming in and saying, we want 10 or 12 homes here when they start working with the county. I urge my colleagues to support what I've heard from my neighbors, to support it because it's a good project. Yesterday was Martin Luther King's holiday for some of us. I couldn't sleep all night. But there was a saying that he had that has been ringing in my mind for a long time. It's always the right time to do right. And I am voting yes.
Okay. My turn, yeah. Sure. Mark has one more
I just want to ask you, the RENA numbers as it stands now, are we in compliance with our RENA numbers?
Yes.
Yeah, the city's housing element is certified. So we're in compliance with all aspects of housing element law. And the current cycle will end at the end of 2021.
Thank you. Fear is a terrible thing.
I know. It's true. Nick, along those lines, talking about RENA, you said that we will start looking once again at our numbers the end of next year. How long does it usually take to go through that cycle?
So the housing element cycle is an 8-year cycle. So that's what the RENA numbers are based on, is an 8-year projection of need, both existing and future need. But it will, the city has to have its housing element certified and adopted by the end of 2021. So we will actually start working on it this year.
Okay, and those 6,500 units are in addition to what our certified housing unit says now.
So they're not additive from cycle to cycle. So the 6,500, which is an approximate, it's not set yet because SCAG just got the methodology approved by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. So now that the methodology is approved, now they can go through their full allocation process.
Okay.
It's going to be another probably 9 months till the final allocation is delivered. But we're going to have a good idea within the next couple of months. We already have an estimate. And so that 6,500 would apply to the new housing element cycle starting in 2021 and going to 2029. So whatever we've done to date is good. It goes out with the old cycle and we get a whole new allocation with the new cycle. The difference is going to be that the new allocation that we're most likely going to get of approximately 6,500 units is about twice what our current cycle is. And we haven't quite built that amount within the last 8 years. So yes, it's very challenging, very ambitious goal, and the city will have to make some difficult decisions moving forward on how to comply with the state law.
You use the word challenging. It sounds almost impossible.
Well, so the city is not in the business of building homes. Right. We're only required by state law to make sites available where those homes could be built at densities that could be considered conducive to affordability. So that's kind of the conundrum, because we can zone all we want, but that doesn't necessarily mean folks are going to build. It's a combination. It's market forces that really drive the construction, and to create affordable housing, we need subsidies. The biggest tool we had was taken away. When redevelopment went away, we no longer have a steady stream of housing funds. And so the city, and not just the city of Chino, but every other city, it's very limited in what it can do to subsidize affordable housing development. So really that's why the state legislature now is putting more emphasis on upzone, upzone, upzone to provide capacity. And so that's the environment that we're in.
The interesting thing, though, I feel, is when we went through this before, and we actually had to change some of our zoning and change it to allow RD 30, which is 30 homes per acre. It's asinine. They can't even build it because it's not affordable. But the state, in all their wisdom, thinks that if we increase densities, it's going to automatically increase affordability, which is garbage. You know, I've attended several BIA conferences, and they have stated, due to various reasons, lack of workforce because of the recession hitting, people left the state of California, went to other states that were building. So we have a lack of skilled labor. The price of land, various things. The BIA said that the governor's mandate of the number of homes that he wants to have built is physically impossible to do. That even in the best years and the highest development, the BIA could not have meant what the governor is mandating now. It's beyond reason.
How did we get on this topic?
I don't know. I'm clear off the topic. Anyway, back to the issue at hand. I have a ton of notes. I too spent many, many hours digging through all of the information, and so please excuse me if I ramble a bit because I have notes everywhere. I do have some questions of staff. The flooding issue. There was part on packet page 183. It states the project would not change the water flows as they currently exist today. I'm challenging that because the waters flow north to south. With the developer putting in block walls, how is that flow going to historically continue with that being a barrier right now? How does the Water Quality Management Plan, the WQMP, propose to address the historic flows? There's no storm drain on Yorba, right? The neighbor's property, you're not supposed to impede historical flows. Where's the water going to go, Nick?
I am going to have to defer to our city engineer on that question.
Okay. And I asked that question because where we live, we're facing that issue right now. And that is historical flows go north to south. We're south of our neighbor's property. They put in a ton of cement, and now our property is flooding when we get a heavy rain because we can't impede those historical flows.
That is correct. Thank you, Mayor.
So how is this development not going to impede those flows if there's block walls?
Okay, Madam Mayor, Chris Magdosku, City Engineer, and I have Dave Hammer, our Civil Engineering Manager, who can address some specifics because he's on the day-to-day as I'm not on the day-to-day. But there's two things going on. One, there's drainage law. Drainage law says you cannot impede those flows coming from one direction heading down. So the existing development to the north will be passing through the development through a conveyance system and then outletted appropriately because they can pass that through.
What kind of conveyance system are they planning?
Well, my understanding is they have a storm drain system, small pipes, and easements through some of the properties to convey that water out of the property. But on-site, which is what the applicant was describing earlier, is on-site. The flow will be contained within the site, pass through the site, through the curb, gutters, other storm drains, and then be conveyed to the WQMP-based water treatment system near the park or within the park. Then
so
outlet.
you do have on-site retention?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Dave, can you elaborate on the type of system they're using?
Well, I don't need to know the details. I'm really curious on what you're going to do with historical flows, because it's one thing to say you're going to address it on paper. It's another thing when it comes to reality. And the neighbors to the north obviously are not going to develop for many, many years, if ever, all right? So they're going to be impacted by this development negatively. Those temporary little drains that are sometimes put in through weep holes on block walls don't last.
Right.
So how are the neighbors to the north going to be protected?
Dave, do you know exactly what they're proposing on the north side to take it through the south?
I do.
Okay.
I do. So there will be a block wall along the north side. They're going to emit blocks, and I don't remember the spacing, but every 10 feet or so there'll be half a block omitted from the wall, so that we'll continue to allow drainage to come across the property line into their site. And we'll make a final determination on how many holes and blocks that we'll leave out in the final design, but rather than coming through little narrow weep holes, which will clog over time, they actually have to leave out usually half blocks every so often, so drainage will continue through. And they'll be restricted from blocking those. The residents won't be able to do that.
If this project is approved, it's going to be very interesting to see how you implement that and how you make sure it is sustained into the future. Because people historically build retaining walls, they put in planters, and those things get blocked. So I'm particularly interested in that if we do move forward on this development.
If I could add a few more details, I don't want to give you too much here. Immediately south of that block wall will be a shallow concrete open drainage system to accept those flows that will come from the north. That system will be owned and operated and maintained by the HOA. That will collect that drainage to one focal point that will then get it into a storm drain system and pipe it down to Francis Avenue.
Okay.
That system will be HOA maintained.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see. Okay. There are a number of statements in Ordinance 2020-001 which we're asked to approve tonight, and I have objections to them. Pardon me? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm finished, thank you. It says, whereas, one issue, whereas the proposed pre-zoning is consistent with the goals and the policy of the Chino General Plan, as the land use element of the general plan includes objective LU-1.1, identifying the need to provide a variety of housing types that meet the housing needs of residents of all income levels in the city. There's a shortage of RD2 homes in this city, so I find that to not be compliant. Upon annexation to the city of Chino, the zoning designation of 4.5 will be consistent with the city's general plan use designation for the site as required by state planning, zoning, and development law. The land use designation for that site is RD2 now, not RD 4.5, so it's not consistent with the general plan. Another statement, whereas in the case of the pre-zone for this property, the change will not adversely affect the harmonious relationship with adjacent parcels and land uses as the surrounding properties are developed with a range of single-family residential uses that are consistent with the proposed RD 4.5. This is also not true. The direct north, east, and west of the property are large lots, county having them zoned 1 acre or greater, some of them having intense agricultural usages. Another statement, therefore, the pre-zone of property to RD 4.5 for single-family homes will be in harmony with the surrounding parcel and land use. I have to go back to my history on this. Not true, because we have plenty of history that reflects issues that we experienced when we annexed the ag preserve. It transitioned from dairy and intense agricultural use to regular homes. And every one of those homes had to sign a disclosure statement stating that they acknowledged they were right next to intense agricultural usage. It didn't make any difference. They raised absolute holy hell because of the flies, because of the dust, because of the noise. Some of those farmers even tragically experienced poisoning of their animals and damage to their animals because the people that moved into the homes were upset. So it's very, very difficult to have intense agricultural use right next to regular homes. It just is. It's difficult. You can have buffers, but it is a fact. See, it says another on 2020.002 resolution, the proposed general plan amendment is internally consistent with the general plan. No, not unless we change the general plan. Anyway, there's many, many places like this. Another section, PL 19-0015, 1.c, that proposed project results in a change of 13.35 acres, 11.99 adjusted gross acres of land from RD2 to RD 4.5. The reduction in RD2 land is minimal in relation to the amount of RD2 designated land that exists in the area. That's very true. There's a whole bunch of land in that area that's zoned RD2. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's true. Oh, I'm sorry. It's true this doesn't set a precedent, but it is the tip of an iceberg. There are developers out there just waiting to see what happens here, to see if they can amass more land and change it. And they're not going to change it to 3 per acre. They're not going to change it to 4.5. They're going to go for the max. Just like we saw on on Central Avenue, north of the Avocado House. That was actually put to a vote of the people, and the developer did an excellent job in their advertising. I mean, the pictures were beautiful, the renderings were beautiful, they showed open space and parks and all that. Well, that's not what got built. So, cumulative effect is major. We keep hearing that these homes are affordable. Well, in the documentation, it says the house prices are $805,000, $835,000, $880,000, and $960,000. Reality is these homes are going to be purchased by people who already own a home, who will be able to sell theirs, get their equity, and roll it into something else. These are not first-time home buyer homes, nor are they affordable for a first-time home buyer. These are people who want to move to like Tom, right? Get rid of your stairs and move to something that, is one story. So these are not first-time home buyers. I will say the development is beautiful. The renderings are gorgeous. The developer has put in a ton of money in advertising. Some of it I find a bit misleading. As the gentleman spoke that has a business that does, I think it was architectural, those renderings are made to look very pretty. But in reality, when you see what's really built, it's not quite that way. But it's a good development. I will acknowledge that you have worked with people. You have listened. Your statement that I directed you to change is not exactly true. When I met with Eric, I told him some of the things that would make it more compatible would be for RV parking to be on the sites and things like that, but I certainly did not demand it. Let's see. One danger that we're facing in the city of Chino with our sphere of influence, and one of the reasons why I requested that we do a master plan for the sphere of influence, is the county, in all of its wisdom, is currently allowing almost anything that comes to it to be approved, regardless of whether it fits in a neighborhood, or the community, or whether the traffic pattern makes sense. They don't care. In fact, we have right now, there's a project in the county that they, in all their wisdom, have decided to let go forward. And it is it's not a church, it's a religious building, I guess you'd say. in almost a landlocked piece of land, tiny little entrance and exits, surrounded by large lot horse property. The county has decided to let that go in on septic tanks. It's just whatever is applied to them just about is let go in. And so in our sphere of influence, the city of Chino will someday annex that entire area. And what we're trying to do right now is to put a master plan over that area so that upon build out, it makes sense, okay? Neighborhoods are cohesive, you have traffic flow that works, you have appropriate development, commercial. I doubt there will be an industrial, and there won't be any big shopping centers, but there will be little strip malls probably, I'm guessing, I'm not sure. But so that eventually what comes into the city will make sense and be something that we're all very proud of instead of a piecemeal hodgepodge thrown together, whatever happens to come along. I requested that the developer wait on this project until we complete the master plan so that we see what's logical, what fits appropriately where. There won't be large lots everywhere, obviously, because there's not that much demand, but there is still demand for large lots by people who have turned over homes 2 or 3 times or wish to have some room, wish to have animals. Maybe they don't want animals. Maybe they just want a large lot. Okay, maybe they want a swimming pool. Maybe they want an RV at home. There are many people that have RVs, by the way, or some kind of recreational vehicles. But it gives options. And one of the dreams that I had way back in 1984 when I was talked into running was that we would truly have a balanced community. A balanced community is not building all of one kind of unit. It's a true balanced community with varieties and options. If this development had come forward to us in an area that was zoned for that, I would be all in favor of it. What I've asked him is to wait to see if that area stays all agricultural usages, this development will not fit cohesively with those kinds of uses. If that area ends up being master planned for development, then it will fit beautifully. And for that reason, because I believe very, very, very strongly in a master plan. I believe very strongly in looking out 15 and 20 years, not just 1 year or 2 years, but what kind of community do we want to live in 20 years from now? What do we want to leave our children and grandchildren 20 and 25 years from now? Do we want an area that we're proud of, that makes sense? Or do we want something that was just thrown together piecemeal? I disagree heartily with piecemealing the sphere of influence because I think we're going to get a hodgepodge. So please don't. So because I want consistency, because I really believe in a master plan, I'm going to consistently vote no on this project, not because I don't think it's a beautiful project, I think it is. I feel very strongly for the difficulties that you are all facing. I've seen it, I drive by there all the time. I've seen it, it's a mess. What I can tell you is my personal opinion. If a responsible developer had bought that property and truly cared about the neighborhood, they would have totally cleared that land and made sure it stayed clear. That hasn't happened. Some of it has been torn down, some of it has been left a mess, and it is a mess. I absolutely agree with that. I had a lot more comments than that, but I think I'll refrain from anything more. Are there any other comments from council members before we move forward? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion one way or another to either approve staff recommendation or deny the recommendation. Not seeing any, then I will make...
Hold on a second.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the project.
Okay.
I'll move to second.
Mayor Pro Tem Howie has moved to approve staff's recommendation to approve the development. There's a second from Councilman Rodriguez. Roll call vote, please, Angela.
Can I ask a point of clarification?
Sure.
Is this whole thing coming as one big block, or are we doing something that's initially and then just negates the rest of it?
That is correct, is one large block. It also includes an ordinance and the resolutions.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. There's a motion and a second. Angela, would you roll call
If I
vote,
may
please?
just read the title of the ordinance.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Before the council is ordinance number 2020-001, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, California, pre-zoning certain privately owned parcels located at the northwest corner of Francis and Yorba Avenues with assessor parcel numbers 1013-211-21 and 22 to RD 4.5 residential within the City of Chino's sphere of influence and in connection with pre-zone annexation PL 190029 and amending ordinance number 2010-06, and that's reading by title only and waiving further reading. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Angela.
And could I just make sure that a vote of yes is that we are approving the Planning Commission's approval of this project?
Yes,
correct?
a vote yes means the developer will develop the project. Okay, Angela.
Mayor Pro Tem Howie,
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Hargrove,
No.
Councilmember Lucio,
No.
Mayor Ulloa.
No.
That was 3 no votes and 2 yes votes, Mayor.
Next.
That's a good project.
Before everyone leaves, I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. I want to thank you for your input and your respectful comments. Okay, next on the agenda is Mayor and Council reports. I'm going to forego a report this evening. Mayor Pro Tem Howie.
I have no report.
Okay. Councilmember Hargrove. Hargrove.
You don't have any other business?
No, that's it.
I don't have any report, Mayor.
Councilmember Lucio.
No, nothing to report.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
I do have a report, but I'll keep it till February.
Okay. Mr. Ballantyne, any report this evening?
I have no report, Mayor.
Mr. Galante? No report from the chief and no report from fire. With that, we are adjourned to our next regular meeting to be held on February 4th with closed session at 6 if necessary in the council chambers.